pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Victor Perez.
Here.
Iván Colón Villalobos.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem René Rodríguez.
Here.
Maria Reyes.
Here.
And Alejandro Garcia.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem, we do have a quorum.
Number 4, public comment.
Our first speaker, Henry Duran. Mr. Duran, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Henry Duran. I live at 171 South Mill Road, and the reason I'm speaking is about the zoning change. I don't know if it's allowed to do it right now. Yes.
Can you speak into the microphone?
So item number 29.
Can you speak into?
Microphone.
So item number 29. I would be the person, my family and our house would be the one to be most affected by the zoning change. I live at 171 South Moon Road. This is a residential R1 area. All our neighbors for the last 3 months have been coming out here. Adriana can testify to that. We have a big concern because we have the neighbor who bought that land next to us a few years ago, wants to build a 16-unit apartment complex right next to our single-family homes. And I don't think anybody here would want to have a 16-unit apartment complex built right next door to your house. You know, we spend a lot of money and effort and to have, you know, privacy. That's what we value where we live. All our neighbors there, we value the same thing. I don't think anybody here would want to have an apartment complex next to you with 16 units. They say, well, what's 16 units? Well, think of 2 people per unit plus their kids. Before you know it, you know, there's 50 people next door to you. And how do I control 50 people next door? So this is the same property where in the last few years, 3 years in a row, they brought in abandoned vehicles. You can ask Myrna Workman. She's hauled away vehicles every single year. She says it seems like every year, well, it's like the owner thinks the new year, we'll just go ahead and bring in 50 more wrecked vehicles. Ms. Workman has done an excellent job. The following day, she'll come and have all the vehicles removed. This is also the same property where we've had illegal hookups of motor homes, travel trailers, sewage hookups, electrical hookups. There's been 2 deaths in this property. One was one of the tenants was in the mobile home. The man passed away, and that was, you know, sad to say that somebody passed away next door to us. Less than a year later, we had a suicide right next door to us. The same motor home was also rented out illegally to that same tenant. We would see the guy running in the morning exercising, and then one day, my next door neighbor, Mr. Frescas, calls me up. Hey, Henry, did you hear what's going on? I said, no, what's going on? As we look out your back door, there's a guy hanging from the tree. So, you know, this is the kind of things that we don't want. This is just with 1 family or 2 families. There was 3 families renting from this at this house. You know, we want our privacy. We value it a lot. I wrote down some things here on how much time I have. Again, the illegal hookups. We know that tenants are collecting rent for these tenants. You know, I don't know the IRS knows about it. If he's claimed any kind of, this is my personal opinion, has he claimed, you know, rental income on these properties? Who knows? So it's just basically just want to tell everybody that myself and all the neighbors that have come out here for the last 3 months, we're
Mr.
against
Duran,
the
your time is
zoning
up.
change. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alice Duran. Ms. Duran, you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm Alice Duran. I live at 171 South Moon Road. Henry is my husband. I'll just continue from what we don't want, and that is an apartment complex next to our private property. It has a very narrow entrance. The last meeting we had with planning and zoning, they voted against it. Emergency vehicles cannot get into that driveway with that narrow entrance that they have. That was their main concern. They rejected it. And we're back here again fighting the same issue. That's number 1, emergency vehicles. The traffic is going to be horrible with 16 units there coming out of one little driveway into that narrow Moon Road. I mean, that's gonna create a lot of chaos. The noise, we live there, we're retired, we're there 24/7. I mean, usually the business that's next to us, they're gone by 3 o'clock. There's no noise. We don't want noise going on all night long, parties, what have you, that may occur. I'm not gonna say that they're going to have them, but probably they will. As my husband mentioned, illegal hookups that have been there for years. We moved in there in '08. My parents owned that property. My mother still lives with us, 86 years old. But what I'm saying is that those tenants have been living there illegally, or the hookups have been there illegally. They had 2 mobile homes. There are no permits. That was brought up in the last zoning. I don't know if they paid fines on that or what, but again, this man is doing things that are not legal. Who knows what's gonna happen with this other, if they're allowed to do the complex. With vehicles that we've had to call to have them removed constantly. And my personal is they're gonna lower the value of our home. We have a nice home, we keep it up. The neighbors have all nice homes, and then you're gonna stick a 16 complex unit dab in the middle. It's a narrow lot, and they're gonna put 16 units, and we are totally against it. All the neighbors are against it, and I hope that you vote again to take the recommendation from planning and zoning to reject this complex, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel Hernandez? Mr. Hernandez, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The thing I've been seeing here lately in our meetings is that we've been having a bunch of recognitions. Now, I think that we should use this time for the problems that the people that live in our communities are here for. We're living here at 11, 12 o'clock at night. I mean, this is, you guys are here to stop the injustice. You know, I know this is just for political gain. I mean, we should use this time to straighten out everything that's happening here in Socorro. And like I said, I don't think it's fair for us. If you guys want to give recognitions, go ahead and do it. Do a special meeting. You guys have time. The thing is that we have problems. I'm here every meeting to say something about our community. I'm not against recognitions, but it's just political gain. I mean, think about that, guys. Like I said, we need to fix everything that's happening here in Socorro, and we need to spare time correctly. Thank you.
Juan Fresques? Mr. Fresques, you have 3 minutes.
I'm Juan Fresquez, as you said. I live at 151 South Moon Road. What I want to talk to you about today, Council, at this point, is that every time we have come to this, on this subject, we've gotten about, at most, an hour to an hour and a half notice. When my dad, about 15 years ago, sold his property, we had to go through zoning change from farming to multi-family building. At that time, we got notices of when the meetings were going to be by the mail. At 4:30 this afternoon, I was told, hey, you better get over there. They're going to be discussing it. So at this point, that's the only thing I want to address. Remember, we forget stuff at my age, and if we have something in writing and at least a little more time to get ready, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rita Garcia? Ms. Garcia, you have 3 minutes.
My home is at 108 South Moon Road, and the proposed change in wanting the apartment complex would greatly affect us. We have been here forever. We take pride in our homes. We owned the property, my family owned the property where the nursing home is down, and we debated in not selling the property to avoid low housing coming in and ruining, our homes. And not only that, but we take pride in our homes. We have worked to keep our homes. And we have a lot of people that are not from Socorro that come in and it's a money-making, what word should I use? Money-making investment for the gentleman that would want to build those apartment complexes. But we do not have the infrastructure, we do not have the bridge, the traffic is horrible, we don't have sidewalks. We are not considered a third world country by comments that are made, okay? We have not improved Socorro. We've had very corrupt governments here in Socorro, and it's time that we do something to improve, not just consider, oh, it's a money-making venture for us. Please, please do not allow this to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Alicia Fresquez. Ms. Fresquez, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Alicia Fresquez. I live in 151 South Moon. I've been there forever, like almost 100 years. But what I'm asking is, please don't change the rezoning. Leave it as a single-family residential area. The traffic is bad. My most concern is there is just no space for any emergency vehicle to go there through the back. And that is one big problem. Please leave it the way that it is. Socorro made rules. Let's keep them the way they were made. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Joseph Austin. Mr. Austin, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, council members of the city of Socorro. I'm Joseph Austin, speaking on behalf of Edmundo Rubio on item number 37, switching from an agricultural to an M1 light industrial. And we understand that light industrial will be improper, so we respectfully ask that you would rezone this property to a C2 commercial. Currently, the agricultural use is a bit outdated. The property around is all commercial property, C1, C2, various. Mr. Rubio has run several successful businesses in the area, all very clean, and he proposes to do auto, truck, and tractor sales, which would be proper for this C2 classification. And city council members, city of Socorro, we respectfully ask that you approve this amendment and adjustment from agricultural to C2 tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Lorenza Freire. Ms. Freire, you have 3 minutes.
After reading what is posted on the agenda, documents in the city council packet, and the regular meeting minutes of May 2nd, 2017 of the City of Socorro Planning and Zoning Commission, I would like a written response as to why the rules and regulations set are not being followed. I am very concerned that the city council is not receiving the correct advice, approved or denied from the Planning and Zoning Commission. The persistence of the ongoing issues for the Planning and Zoning Department, in which the department staff are not providing the city council with the correct information, continues. Even with the fact that the Planning and Zoning Director is no longer in the department continues to withhold information and refuse to follow the protocol. The Planning and Zoning Department is also withholding documents to the Planning and Zoning Commission, backup documentations that the Planning and Zoning Commission members should receive to make the correct recommendations are being withheld. The commission members are not receiving correct packets, such as the city council is not receiving all the recommendations from the Planning and Zoning Department. We presented documents before the public hearing and they were never provided. The request to amend zoning map to said property clearly states for an R3 Section 4553 of the public hearing and notice requirement clearly states that after the investigations and review, public hearings shall be authorized and conducted as provided in this section. The public hearing was for an R3 proposed, but yet this evening on your agenda, you have something written. The minutes approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission state a motion made by Mrs. Karen to deny the R3 zoning, second by Daniel Hernandez. Motion carried with all commissioners. Yet in your agenda, it's saying an option of 2. Excuse me, but there's something wrong. Like I said, the planning and zoning director is no longer in your department, but the persistency of what's information coming through you all is not there. Documents that the commission members submitted in reference to the public hearing were never provided to the Planning and Zoning Commission. To them, as we swear, there were people from our district to sign a notarized statement stating they didn't want that 4-complex apartment in our vicinity. Yet tonight, you have with an option to do. You have the rules and regulations under section 4553 from your planning and zoning ordinances. You all need to be in comply. I believe that these people that are here before you are correct. There's something wrong with our system. Is there corruption still continues here in Socorro? More than likely it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Albert Ortiz. Albert Ortiz. Mr. Ortiz, you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, all city councilmen and staff. I just wanted to talk about the street lines, like around Sanchez Middle. If y'all will notice, it's completely disappeared, and being the next member of Public Safety, Fire Department, at night I've seen people actually literally almost go over those lines, because there's hardly any lines there. Also, like an example, Rio Vista, and right before Alameda, that safety line where you're supposed to stand behind so they won't turn. I've seen people just go up because that line is going. That's basically what I was going to ask you all about, if you want to start checking into the street lines again. Because like I said, to avoid, any accidents in the future. And also, publicly, some of my neighbors have said to say, thank you, Mrs. Adriana, for the job you've been doing. You answer your phone, you're very kind when you answer, compared to your predecessor. So I just want to say, some of my neighbors wanted me to tell you all, thank you again for the job you've been doing, okay? Of course, all others too. Okay, so thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
My concern was the street lines, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Ralph Duran. Mr. Duran, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I didn't realize I had so many Durans in the Socorro. Tonight, I can tell it's election time because I look up here. I see Mr. Rodriguez's name's been blacked out. I see Miss Reyes sitting far apart. She's not where her name is. We have to stay together until the election is over. And then we'll just start all over again. But everybody's pointing fingers of who did this and who did that, and that doesn't help anybody. It just gives people something to talk about, and in a negative way. If you all would be united, we would have work that would get done. And from what I've seen in the last few weeks, there's no unity at all in our city council, and there should be. We should be working together for the good of the people, not your own, who you want to win, that's all irrelevant. You do that outside. In here, you should be together. You should work with each other instead of against each other and get things done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duran. Mayor Pro Tem, those were our speakers.
Number 5, proclamation declaring Lupus Awareness Month in May. Lupus Foundation of America, Long Star Chapter LFA, is celebrating Lupus Awareness Month in May. The Lupus Awareness Day on May 19th, we're seeking community partners to spread the message of awareness for lupus and its brutal impact. As part of a national campaign to raise awareness for lupus and its devastating effects, the LFA is asking for community partners in sharing the message of educating through action. Put on Purple Day. There is estimated 1.5 million Americans suffering from lupus and chronic inflammatory autoimmune disease that affects various parts of the body, especially the skin, joints, blood, and kidneys. Whereas lupus can be difficult to diagnose because it's a symptoms that are similar to those of many other illnesses, and the majority gasp exit in understanding the cause and consequences. And whereas the Lupus Foundation of America Long Star Chapter is part of a national force devoted to solving the cure mystery of lupus while providing care support for those who suffer from its brutal impact. And whereas the chapter relied on the city of Socorro community to wear the color purple and to further unify the purpose of these living with the disease. And whereas awareness is vital in raising funds for each of these affected by lupus, and it is our responsibility as a community to advocate on their behalf and to further encourage education programs so every affected by lupus can have an important quality of life. Now therefore I, René Rodriguez, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor Pro Temp of the City of Socorro, Texas, do hereby proclaim May 19, 2007 as Put on Purple throughout the City of Socorro, and urge all citizens to support the cause in raising awareness of lupus so that we can have a world with no lupus. I just want to say that it is a devastating disease. My mom has lupus. It's very difficult, you know. I just want to say that if you know anybody, it's a good cause. You try to deny it and put it behind, your thoughts of, what it means, but it's very difficult. And I know that if anybody who has a member in their family, I feel their pain. And I'm pretty sure that all of council members agree that, we do have to stand together and do something about it. That's it. Anybody else?
I'd like to say something. I have been suffering from, many of you don't know this, but I've been suffering from rheumatoid arthritis for the last 5 years. My husband will tell you, there's times where I can't get up. Luckily, not too long ago, a friend of mine who is a nurse told me that by getting the polio vaccine, my life would improve. And it has, tremendously. But I think it does wear off and it starts all over again. The last month I've been suffering. At night is when the pain in my joints get the worst and I get stiff. In the morning it takes me forever to get ready because I have to warm up. Now, rheumatoid arthritis and lupus are very similar. One attacks the right side, the other one attacks the left side. They're very similar. It's very devastating. It does change your world. But I think we're closer now with all this research that I've done that one day we will be able to cure these type of diseases because they are viruses, they are viruses. I know the cure is out there. I just wish the government would release it. But they are a virus and it can be cured. So for those that suffer I know your pain. If you ever want to know how I've been treating mine, please come and see me, and thank you.
Anybody else? Would you like to make a motion?
Do we need a motion for the proclamation?
No.
No.
No emotion.
Number 6, recognition of Socorro High School baseball team for winning the Class 6A area round baseball championship.
Good afternoon. This is my item, and unfortunately, the baseball team was not able to make it today. So what I'm going to go ahead and just delete this, and they will be, this recognition will be taken at a later date at the, and I'll make the arrangements for those as well. So, but we do want to go ahead and congratulate them, even if they're not here. They did outstanding, and they will be recognized for their achievements. Thank you.
Number 7, recognition and honoring the Socorro Police Department and America's Law Enforcement for National Police Week. Should we go? No, this is a recognition. Item number 8, recognition students of Socorro High School Cosmetology Program, Ewenin Trevicio, cosmetology instructor, for offering free haircut to our community.
I'll tell you the story behind this. I met Ms. Carrizo, and we recognized her. She was a year in photo. And when she told me she was cosmetology, I sent her an email
Okay, the robotics team, Socorro, as part of the STEM program, which gets kids ready for engineering degrees and a career in engineering. And that is a very, very new program. And for our Socorro kids to go to nationals, isn't it? Kentucky. We got to Kentucky, it's called Ball Box, I'm sorry. What's it called? Dental Box. And they were, I got online, I saw it. It was amazing what these kids come up with. But this is the future Socorro that our future engineers, they're gonna, Quintana, took part in, Ilerta, we took them to nationals, and not a lot of people can say we've gone to nationals on the high school level. So I want to congratulate them for what they've done to get to national level. These are our future engineers. You know, we might be one of these guys in NASA one day, or making an actual transformer.
Number 10, presentation on grant activities updates from Board of Community Development Consultant.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Aníbal Olague with Border Community Development Consultants. I wanted to make a brief presentation on the process that we use, our company uses to seek grants, to submit the applications. And just so that we are clear on how, I just want to be clear that we don't make that decision on what grants are submitted. We have a process that we implemented working with the city manager and outlining the procedures that we could do in order to follow up with the request from the different departments or from the city manager who's our contact under our contract.
I'm sorry, was that part, is that in our packet or not? This is just.
No.
No, okay, all right.
No, the only one that's in your packet, it's a separate form that I submitted with a
Right.
summary of all the grants that we've submitted
Okay.
recently. So we develop a process where we can work with the different departments to identify their priorities. Each department has a budget to accomplish their mission. And the purpose for our contract is to help the city reduce the amount of public funds that they're using towards these projects. We identify those priorities working with the different departments, and we help them seek or research the funding that's available to help them pay for most, if not all, the project cost. Just to give you a brief summary of how a grant becomes a project, to identify the funding source, we develop a scope of work working with the different departments. We gather the documentation that's provided to us based on their project. For example, if we are using, we're repairing the arroyo, which we have a contract, we have a project with CDBG. The department is responsible for providing us the needs that the project has. Budget, yes.
I do apologize. Is there anything?
Not this presentation, no.
Just the summary sheet?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I apologize, thank you. I'm sure she said it, but I didn't hear you. I apologize.
And so once we identify the priorities, we work with the department to outline the scope of work that we're trying to implement. We'll conduct research to identify the funding sources that are available through different agencies, federal or state or foundations. We then put together a proposal or the idea, and we meet with the city manager. We request for authorization to continue or invest more time into that project. If it's something that she feels that it aligns with the city's master plan or the priorities that council has given her, she'll give us authorization to continue with the project. Once we work on the proposal, we'll come back to council and request authorization from council to allow us to submit the grant application. Otherwise, we will not submit the application. If we don't get the permission from the department, we will not be able to submit the application either. Couple of years ago, one of the biggest challenges that we had was to secure funding for infrastructure because we didn't have a city engineer. In all these funding applications that were coming up, we didn't have anybody in the city that could develop the plans or seal them or stamp them. We have to go out, do a bid to get an engineer to design the project. By then, the grant application was done. So a couple of years ago, if not last year, the city took the leadership and they identified funding to hire an in-house engineer or an outside engineer to help us put these applications together. Once the proposal is submitted, we get the grant. We'll meet with the department and go over the responsibilities that the city has to implement the project, all the guidelines, the requirements that they have to hire the contractors or anybody who's going to be involved. Most of the grants, they're administered by the different departments. Our role is just to secure the funds. Although there's a couple of contracts that we do administer, like the Arroyo, or some that the city had to do an RFQ to secure grant administration services, because we don't have the staff or the support in-house. And so the grants allow the city to procure the services of a grant administrator. And we have different certifications from funding agencies that allow us to administer those grants. So we don't make a decision on what grants are submitted. There's a process that we got to submit. Once we provide, the department will send us a request. Every Monday, our office is represented at the department head meeting. It'll either be me or Leonel Nunez, who works with our office. He's also an attorney, or Giselle, who's a program coordinator. And one of us will be attending the meeting and get with the different departments to look into their priorities as well. During those meetings, the departments will talk about their projects or their priorities. We'll send them a form that outlines their priority. They give us a proposed scope of work, a budget, or a timeline, or if they know of a grant, they'll include it in the form. We'll get the form. I will meet with the city manager. If she gives us the authorization, we'll continue. We'll look for the grants, and then we'll send a second form to the department with the research that we found on the different grants that they gave us. That the form will give them a deadline on when they have to submit information to us. Some of the information, as I mentioned, could be a budget, could be a design, could be an estimate for cost, or the idea, or just a concept on how they want to implement the grant. If we don't get that form within the deadline that we provided, we start working on that grant and we'll move on to the next project that we have. That way we ensure that we are submitting the applications on time, one, and two, the city can also track whether we are providing the services that they're asking us to do. If they're asking us to research different areas, that will allow us to show that we have or we haven't. Once we submit the proposal, as I mentioned, we'll sit down with the city and we'll go over with the different departments and provide the different responsibilities that each department has in putting together or implementing the grant. And we will not continue with the grant. There's, for example, let me see, there it is. This list kind of gives you a responsibility on which or who does what in the process. This is the form that we use to give the departments so they can, it's a funding matrix that they use to outline their responsibilities. They'll give us our funding priority, and then they'll rank them, and we'll put, prioritize on the projects that have more priorities. We'll asking for details on the project. And this is an ongoing process, and we update these forms as their priorities change. For example, initially with Rio Vista Community Center, one of the priorities was transportation, because seniors were being transported in a van that was not handicap accessible, it's not accessible or safe. Working on those priorities that Mr. Reta provided to us, we were able to secure a bus, an ADA bus, and then recently we were able to secure an ADA SUV for them. We have to go through all this process in order to secure those funds. I went over this. So after the award, as I mentioned, we'll meet with the departments and give them their responsibilities. We have a system in place that's called Basecamp that our company has, and it's a project management software that we have online. Each department has access to this software, including the city manager. Once we get the grant, we'll put all the priorities, not priorities, the deadlines, the responsibilities, and the due dates for each grant under a project online. And everyone gets a notification on what responsibilities they have and by when they have to complete these. This allows the city manager to go in at any time and see the progress of each grant, instead of waiting till the end of the grant and learn that the grant was never implemented or didn't move or there was a problem. This allows us to keep track of all the deadlines. And as I mentioned, everybody has access to this. And through here, we also document every activity that we have on the grant. Every day we go in, we document what we did, how many hours we spent in my office working on that specific project. And that also gives us, allows us to be able to track on who's doing what and who's not doing what they're supposed to. So far, it's been a great system. We've been very fortunate to have a very good relationship with the city and the different departments. They're very cooperative, and we've been able to implement almost, every grant that we have been able to secure. This is a sample of the base camp, how it looks. As you can see, we have discussions there that we document. We have to-dos. So we'll assign to-dos to the different departments on, for example, I'll send notification to Victor, I need your evidence of procurement for the van, and he'll respond to that within the deadline that he's provided. He'll attach the documentation there so that we don't lose the information and everything's well kept and organized. When we have the auditors come in and do an audit in the city, we'll give them access to this, to the system, and they can see all the progress, documentation. We have contracts, we have everything that's pertaining to that one grant will be in each project. Mr. Casiano has access to, and he'll be able to go in and get copies of draws or any financial information that pertains to the grants. It's a very simple and quick summary that I wanted to give you, just to explain to you that we don't make the decisions of what grants are submitted. We just follow direction, and direction starts here, and goes to the city manager and then to the different departments. Is there any questions on the process?
I do. Mr. Olage. Thank you. Mr. Olage, is there at any time when you feel that there's grants out there that we could benefit, that you actually call the city manager and say, hey, I think you should take advantage of this? I mean, is that something that you can do, or you just stick to your plan?
No, we have a system. Actually, the city pays for a system that we recommended. It's called eCivis. And we have eService is a grant search engine, and every department is set up in this search engine. So we'll set it up, for example, for transportation. So any grant that's out there that has these keywords will come in, and we get a weekly email with all the grants that came up pertaining to transportation. And I'll get a list of that, we'll go through them, and those that apply to the city, or the city can apply for, I will provide a report to our city manager, and then she'll give me guidance on or the different departments, and then we'll discuss if it's something that the city can apply for. There's all these grants out there, but the city doesn't qualify for every single grant, or some of them have a very high match, or it just depends on the grants.
In the questions that I'm asking are because I've been asked by constituents. When do you think we'll be seeing grants flowing in instead of trickling in? You know, the constituents feel that we should have a lot more grants already, that we qualify, our city qualifies for a lot more grants. Is
Like
that,
which one?
I'm sorry? I mean,
If you could give me an example of like
I could not give you an example, just the fact that they feel that for the amount of money that we're paying your organization, there should be a lot more grants coming in, a lot, you know, the amount should be a lot larger than what we're receiving. I know that part of the problem, and the reason I'm saying this is because some of those people are here today. So part of the problem, we identified we did not have we didn't have the staff, the proper staff. So now that we do, when can we expect to see those grants coming in quicker, and are any of those grants costing us any money? I guess that's another question.
Every grant has a match. That's part of the competition that we have to deal with. Cities or grantees that offer the highest match will get a higher score. In the applications that we have submitted, we've scored the highest. For example, one of the applications that we received was for the Safe Routes to Schools project. The city of El Paso, City of Horizon, UTEP, El Paso County, the city of Anthony, was about 12 entities. We got the highest score. So we're doing really good. I would like to get more detailed information on what type of grants you're referring to that we haven't applied for, that you're eligible for. And I would be more than happy to research it. Obviously, you can send it to our city manager. And I can do more research and come back and let you know why we didn't apply for that specific grant.
I think
for the pertaining to the return investment that the city is putting into this, the other form that I had submitted as part of your backup has the grants that we recently received, and it's about $1.5 million. So that pays for that contract about 16 times. So the return investment is great, and we could do more if we have the tools. And when I say more, it's, for example, transportation grants. Those are the ones that have a higher amount of grant funds. I think the city is moving forward on that by the partnership they did with the engineer. They're working on and they're submitting a couple of applications for that. But everything that the city can apply for, we are submitting an application. Obviously, I'm sure we're missing one or two, but if I can learn which ones are those, I would be more than happy to work on those. But I mean, we do our search and we see what we can apply for.
Mr. Garcia?
Is there any way we can get like a listing? Because I know we have council meetings every, 2 weeks, and it's kind of like, can we have anything that say every Monday we can get a listing of things we just would like to, of what's available? So I can say, you know what, can we kind of try this, or can we try that?
Well,
Or
I
we
think
would have to go through
if
council?
maybe provide you access to the eService,
Okay.
and you all look for whatever it is that you think we have potential for. However, the grants that sometimes don't require a match is because we're already meeting that threshold, because we're either a bigger city or smaller cities can apply for those type of grants. There's a lot of things that take into account in order to apply for a grant, and when you say your constituents, they're more than welcome to come and sit down with us so we can explain the process. And if there is a number that they feel that we should be receiving, what number is that? What? I guess we have to set the expectation for us. If you want us to bring in $5 million, okay? But then how feasible is that if we don't have the funding? The
What-
match?
My thing is that it's the matching criteria that we face. We have a $9 million budget a year, but if you guys remember when we approved the three thoroughfare plans that we had, that we sent it out to the MPO, remember, one of those, the biggest one was $8 million of our share. Do we have $8 million right off the bat to do one project? So it's one of those things that some of us, and I know because of the MPO and the TPAC, is that we don't qualify for the majority of them because we're a city of over 30,000. But then we don't qualify for the other ones because we're less than 50,000. So there are criterias to everything. Just because there is a grant there, we might get denied because we either our population is lower or higher than what they're asking. I get it and I understand, because that's my concern as well, is that how do we pick and choose? I think that the best thing and the correct solution would be is that every time that Mr. Olage would present something to our city manager, I think that information should be disseminated to us so that we can say, hey, you know what, we can probably go to this direction and we can take it and do it that way.
Well, I do think that if we give you access to eCivis, that way you all know what grants are out there. And then at that point, you can place an item on the agenda to direct us to apply for those grants. That way you know exactly what the grant requires, the match, and if that's something that you want to go for.
Also,
And then at that point, if you submit something and then we don't pass the application, well, then we have something to go, like, what is it that we're doing wrong? But right now, we don't have a system that's set up that way. Everything that we've applied for, we have scored really high, like Mr. Aníbal said, and we've received the grants. But it is a team effort.
And to add to that, there was the first Safe Routes to School when I got on board, where I was at the TPAC, because we had the highest score, didn't we? And we got turned down. And we had, I believe it was like a 92, 93, and they approved the 50s and the 20s. So, I mean, it's one of those, it's not a guarantee that we might get approved. It just depends on where we fall. We did not have a lot of the mechanisms that we have now. That's the one thing that we said, is that why aren't you, and I was one of those individuals in council that I did spoke to Mr. Olage, and I did tell him, I don't like your performance because of the grants that were coming in. And I'm pretty sure that he recalls that conversation. And he told me, well, I don't have the tools. And that was one of the things that we looked at. We looked at our budget. We gave him the tools that he needed. And we started to find out more and more that he started being more aggressive in his grants. But then we bumped into another thing that we did not have an engineering firm. So therefore, we went and we, as council, got the engineering firm. Now, the sky's the limit. But the only problem that we're going to face is that where are we going to come up with the matches? So we have to be very wary and very selective of what we're going to do, and if we have the match to do it. People don't like for us to raise taxes. People don't like for us to get COs. So, I mean, it's something that we have to be very thoughtful when it comes to applying for these grants. Can we afford it? We don't want to look like El Paso, where they put a ridiculous amount of money and they lost $32,000 worth of fund, to $32 million, because they didn't have the match for it.
right. Mary, also, I mean, the problem that we have is that we don't have the plans. We don't have, in order to apply for a grant, I gotta reference a plan. And we don't have a plan. For example, parks. You know, we've been working on a parks master plan, but it hasn't been completed. So there's been a couple of grants that we could have applied, but I gotta reference that. If you have access to eCivis and you're gonna be looking through all those grants, it's gonna, first of all, it's gonna be very confusing, and two, you should be focusing, in my opinion, my professional opinion, to be focusing on putting these plans together. I'm more than happy to do a workshop on grants and go over the requirements and the process and even how to write a grant so you can understand clearly. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I've asked people from the public to go to I've asked Mr. Jaime to go to my office, and I would give him a whole overview. I asked this other gentleman to go to my office, and I would give him an overview of how and what we do, and the system and everything. I mean, we're very transparent. We're more than happy to give any training or any workshop, or even facilitate a planning session for all these grants. But if I don't have those tools, it's really hard to apply. On some of those, but either way, this contract has already paid for itself several times with what we have submitted so far. But I think we can do a lot better.
No, just a question to clarify. When you ask for the match, would you let the layman that don't know how grants are done, that the match has to be there later, or how they do the funding with the match on a grant?
It's got to be there. When we submit a resolution as part of the application, the city is committing and saying that they have this amount of funds in its reserve for a match.
So the money has to be there?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get, so that the people know that if we don't have that funding, that grant's not going to get approved if they're asking for so much money.
Right.
Now, if we do have it, then we can go ahead and match it, and we can approve that.
Correct.
Because our constituents believe that grants are free.
Right.
Just because you have the word grant does not constitute that it's free. It's going to cost us a percentage of the full amount. And that's what we need to address and let our constituents know that no grant that I've seen since I've been here is absolutely free. So, Mrs. Villalobos?
Does every grant need to have a match, or are there grants out there that don't?
No, there's a few that don't. But as part of the scoring criteria, they will give you, as I mentioned earlier, they'll give you a higher score if you are investing into the project yourself. But there's some, when we build the houses, and we also got funding for the rental assistance, we're able to do it with no match. It just depends on the grant.
And the type of grant.
Correct.
But like, for example.
But most of them, these infrastructure grants, all have.
Yes, that's what I was referring to. What it is for infrastructure, that what is our greatest need here in Socorro, all of those have grant matches. Of course, there's other ones, but my whole purpose was to say on the infrastructure itself, safe routes, all of the road widenings, stuff like that. It all has.
Right.
And of course, and those are the ones that cost more.
And those are the ones that have the millions of dollars that we want to see here.
They have what? I'm sorry.
The millions of dollars that we want to see in Socorro. Those are the big grants. These are all the other small. These are $1.5 million in grants, but there are a lot of small grants. There's a lot of hours of grant writing. Mm-hmm. But to get a real big grant, it's going to take a little bit more. We need a plan, we need a design, and we need a match. Mm-hmm. We're getting there. I mean, I think the city is moving on the right direction, and we're seeing that progress. But I think we just got to get better in our planning, our master plan, our parks master plan, mm-hmm. We got to develop a Safe Routes to Schools plan. The one we used, or we're using, and it's already outdated. That's the one we used initially to secure the $4 million that we spent. We secured $4 million at the very beginning for Safe Routes. We were only able to spend $2.3 million because those plans were not done correctly. And a lot of the money had to go back. So we did our part. The money gets here, and then we have to send it back because of the lack of planning.
Ms. Reyes?
You're saying that the money that we got for the master plan was done incorrect?
No, I was talking about the Safe Routes to Schools project, the phase one.
Okay.
The phase one only.
Only, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because we already corrected on phase 2 and 3.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Any more questions?
Can that money be, if we provide them what they need, can we apply for that again?
We can apply again, and the city's work, they just submitted a phase 3 application. Mm-hmm. But those funds, when you get them, and you don't spend the money, it looks really bad on the grant, first of all. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these grants are coming from the federal, so they got to return that at the end of the year, at the end of the budget, every 2 years. So we got to move quickly on spending the money. For example, the Arroyo, we completed the Sparks Arroyo, and we have about $200,000 left. But we're able to save a lot of money. We just got an amendment to amend that contract, and we'll be able to use those $200,000 to expand the project. But we got to move. We're moving quick on that so that we don't lose the funds.
Mr. Nanivan, since we're talking about grants, on phase 3, were we able to add driveways to those sidewalks as well?
I made that recommendation, but that application was put together by the engineering company.
Okay.
And Mr. Reyes, or what's
Yes.
here?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did? Okay. So it's just up to the government whether they accept it or not?
Correct.
Okay.
But it's an eligible activity.
Okay.
So we should be okay.
Okay. No, that's all I wanted to know. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
There's
sir.
an item on this list where it says projects that we're working on. There's one on, I think it's item 25. We had asked for authorization to submit an application for down payment assistance. We're gonna delete that because since the last meeting was canceled, we didn't have enough time to submit the application, which is due today. But there's gonna be another opportunity to submit it. Application's ready, we'll just go back and submit it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See, they want to see if you can suspend the rules. We have speakers that want to speak on that item. It's up to council.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Anybody remember?
They're asking if we can suspend the rules. I have a couple of speakers that want to speak on that item.
I don't see why not. They're here.
Anybody wants to make a motion?
I make the motion to suspend the,
Aye.
yes.
Aye.
Well, my name is Daniel Hernandez. Mr. Rodriguez, I was hearing that you're saying about a higher number that we were above, but yet they went through the 50s, 60s. They gave that grant to lower numbers, right? Then, for my common sense, why not apply to grants? If you consider us a low number, then why not apply? If the grants were given to 50s, 60s, then why not apply to grants that you consider us a low number? Maybe we can get them.
No, you misunderstood about the number. Our qualification for our score was high.
Okay, but you said they.
No, you misunderstood. So I'm clarifying.
Okay.
Okay? When you make an application, the high score you want to get is 100. That means that if you get 100, you're supposed to be able to be eligible for that grant. We went up against all of these municipalities in the county of El Paso. We had the highest scores, but yet another municipality came in with lower scores and got that grant that we applied for. It doesn't matter. Excuse me?
Because of the need of the community.
Yes, because of the need of the community. Oh, Mr. Ania?
Just so we can kind of clarify that too.
Just for clarification, we did get the highest score, so it's a competition based on scoring criteria. I mentioned we got the highest score, but the grant, the city was not ready to implement the grant because they didn't have the engineering done. So they're looking for projects that are shovel-ready projects. So they have a design, an environmental, ready to go. Start construction as soon as you get the contract. We got the highest score, but the city didn't have the design or the environmental complete. That's the reason why they went back and they hired an engineer so he can be ahead and get all these designs and environmentals ready. So when the grant becomes available, we'll look to submit it, we're ready. Even though we didn't get that year, the following year, we got the funds. Because within a year, we were able to complete the environmental and the design. So we did take advantage of that.
And that's how we learned that from now on, we need an engineering firm to do the planning and all of the stuff that we don't have.
Yeah,
So that's why we always say, and we will continue to say, is that we need to give them all of the tools necessary, because I know that a lot of people say, oh, well, we want to make $5 million a year. But if you have to look at if our engineering isn't ready, or if our planning isn't ready, or if we don't have our portion of the grant available, then we won't be able to get those grants. And that's something that we have to work as a whole and come up with a solution to see what grants can we be ready, shovel ready.
And I agree on that. Like I said, and if we're gonna dish out the tools for all this to go through, then I think, like you said, we as constituents should have something to prove that we are getting grants with the tools that you guys are providing. You know what I mean? I don't have no ifs or buts of giving the tools that you guys need, but the thing is, what grants are we getting? What grants are we benefiting? You know what I mean? I don't think we should be, maybe I'm saying it wrong, but with the old grants or with the grants that we had, I mean, we need to go out there. You said the sky was the limit. Socorro's only growing. You know what I mean? So we need to be out there, you know, and just give it a shot on anything we have. Like I say, yeah, if you guys need the tools, and you guys need the tools. But the thing is, if we're gonna dish out the tools, then of course we need numbers. Like I say, like you say, you're spitting out, you know, big numbers. We would like that for our community too.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more speakers? Ms.
I have some concerns, okay? Because of the fact of the matter is that, let's look at the financial analysis as far as how much money are we spending on him versus on the money we're coming in, okay? In all, being realistically, if you look at all the places where they hire grant writers are hired based on the amount of dollar amounts that come in, and then they get paid. Well, City of Socorro is doing different. We're paying first and finding out that he's only working with what we've always had. And we're providing him all the tools. So in essence, Socorro is the one that's getting the grants, not him. In my opinion, do a financial analysis on all your grants that you have. When did you get them? When did you redo them? If you're reoccurring grants, then he's not doing anything, but we're paying him. Really? Everything you paid him, you could have had a match for bigger grants. All the money you've invested in him, you could have had more bigger grants. Mere fact? Yes, it is. I can assure you, as an accountant that I am, as an economist that I am, and as a financial graduate from the University of Texas at El Paso, I can assure you, grants are out there. And the idea of what I heard today was from your CEO telling this young man, if you want to find out the information, we'll tell you where to look for it. No, sir. You're a council member. You pay your staff to give you information. You paid him to give you information.
Thank you, Ms. Friday.
Realistically, you're cheating us out. So I want you to look at the reports
you, Ms.
and I want you to look at everything else. Please, because the school route grant was in there before 2010. When
Mrs.
I
Friday,
was
your time
there,
is up.
the grant was brought in by Mrs., I forget her name, a young lady. She brought the grant in, and it's been reoccurring. Everybody,
Ms. Lorenza,
he's always
your
getting the
time's
same
up.
credit.
Thank you.
You know,
I'm
you know,
sorry,
Miss,
I have a
I'm
question.
concerned because,
We
I'm
suspended the rules,
concerned
didn't
because
we?
of the money
They still
being
have the
spent,
time frame?
we do.
okay?
And yeah,
I
they
wasn't
didn't-
given a
she
time when I
wasn't-
came up here, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't told I would have 3
Okay.
minutes, and I wasn't told I had any timing. Why are you applying
Do
the
we-
rule to me? I want to know that. Why is he applying the rule to me? Am I saying something facts?
That's fine. I mean,
Yes.
let her speak.
I'll stop, but I'm asking. I would like a financial report on all of our grants that we've had since 2010, coming forward, and how much money we have spent on paying an individual to bring us grant money. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's open records.
Ms. Friday, you're more than welcome for open records. I'm sure you'll get that information and to both of the speakers.
Pardon me?
There's
I
open,
can understand you,
yes,
this person.
open records, request them, and you'll get them. in
But the
open
problem
records.
is that you were asking for information about grants, and I'm telling you where you need to
Yes,
get
ma'am.
your resources. If you can do that,
Yes, ma'am.
and I can show you where the mistakes are and where it's at. Please, you as council members represent me. And if I ask for open records request, I have to pay out of pocket for all the time and the hours. I'll probably end up spending about $200 to find out this report. You as my council members, I'm asking you to do it, okay? Thank you.
I see. Thank you. What I do want to say is, we're starting to clean up the city, and we're going to get these type of situations. We're still not clean. We're still not on the right path, but we're trying. We really are trying. It's just there's so much. There's so much. There's so many departments. Everything needs cleanup. Everything was a mess. There is just so much to take care of. And I do understand what you're saying. I did not know there was some type of systematic approach, if you want to call it that. But I think they're right. I think we need to revisit how it's looked at versus the way it's presented to us. And I thank you for the invitation. I would like to sit down and see how you do your thing and try to understand and come to a happy medium with everybody.
More than happy. Although I'm confused, I mean, you spend 90,000 and you get 1.6 million. I mean, it's a no-brainer. But I think we could do more if we get the test. Thank you.
Thank you, that's it.
Thank you.
Could I have a motion?
There's no more, it was a presentation.
Yeah, no, can I have a motion for that?
Yes.
Okay, if you want to do that, consent first. Okay. This one. Consent agenda. Do I make a motion?
For 11?
Yes, 11, 12, and
11,
13, and 14.
A motion to move excuse absences out of, I'm sorry?
You don't have to do that, we're all here.
Okay.
On your consent agenda.
Alrighty, I see.
I
Okay,
apologize.
never mind.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos?
Yes.
María Reyes? Yes. Alejandro Garcia?
Aye.
Ms. Reyes?
I need to make a motion to move items number 15, 41 first, I'm sorry. 15, 16, 17, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 39, and after the consent agenda.
Second.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos?
Yes.
María Reyes? Yes. And Alejandro Garcia?
Aye.
41, discussion and action to approve Denenbaum Engineering to provide status update on Onion Field Basin excavation.
Thank you, Mary.
Good afternoon, council, staff. I'd like to bring an update on the Onion Field Basin and kind of the status where it's at. The last time we came, we had told you we had pretty much the size of the basin to assist in flood control for the Sparks Arroyo, and we pretty much have designed the basin what it's going to look like, and we're pretty close to moving to construction. We did hit a snag in that, is in that the state of Texas requires us to do an archaeological study in all areas that have vacant, that have I guess undisturbed lands such as this. We we spoke with the staff and told them that we highly recommend that we go ahead and perform this before we start excavating, because if this is not done, the state could really stop construction. And the worst thing, the thing you don't want to do is have a contractor working out there and the state say you gotta stop and do an archaeological study. So we just recommend it. I guess we suspend the construction of it until we can go ahead and go perform this archaeological study. This study will be, I guess, performed. It'll take approximately 2 months to perform, and they'll do not just archaeological, but they'll do a historical resources study, endangered species, and all these are required by the state of Texas. You know, we don't want the city of Socorro to get in trouble with the state for not obliging with their requirements. You know, we did talk to the engineer, to the archaeological, the environmental firm that's on our contract, and they gave it a cost of a maximum of $35,000. This is a maximum. I mean, if they don't find anything as they're doing their study, it'll probably be less, but they give us the maximum amount. So that's what we're gonna let you know. This is the process that we need to go to. We understand this basin needs to be constructed, but this is one step that we feel, you know, it has to be done. You know, as your engineer, we want to recommend that, you know, we take this step. Does anyone have a question on that part of it before I go on?
No.
Okay. I do.
Well,
Yes,
When do you think, I know that you're still waiting on, are you thinking next month, 2 months, starting date more or less? How long is
Well,
it gonna take to get to that point?
If we start the study, you know, next week, it'll take 2 months to complete, and we'll know.
The study?
The study, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Yes,
thought
yes.
2 months to finish the
No,
project.
no, the basin will,
Uh-huh.
you know, we can work with the environmentalist, and as they proceed through the study, maybe we can find out if they don't find anything, maybe they can proceed to construction before they finish the actual study.
Mr. Perez?
Sir, I have a question. Only because I don't know this. Why do we have on one image phase 1, and in the second image we have phase 1?
Okay, so that's what I want to get into next.
He's gonna provide you options, because of the cost.
And this is relative to the archaeological study or the overall project?
No, well, the overall construction of the basin with the culvert that goes under Thunder Road, the cost is approximately $3.8 million. And I spoke to Ms. Duarte and I said, you know what, I know it's a high cost, but I understand we need to get some storage in there, and maybe we could cut that basin in half and do maybe half of it. You know, it'll be phase 1 will be 2.6, and then 2.6 million rather than 3.6. So that way we at least get started, put the culvert in, provide some relief to the residents of the area, and also to the staff, to your maintenance staff, having to, you know, when rains come, constantly have to work in there to build berms and to maintain the arroyo. So that's just an option. If you look at the whole basin there is in the first sheet, second basin, we would build half of it and just really give you some relief. And then the other one we could do maybe next year, you know, that way it'll help you guys in terms of your budgeting, you know, and cut it in half. But just kind of looking at the different options to help you all, help the city start, as soon as we get the study, move forward and start construction.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Reyes?
How long would it take to do the archaeological study?
That'll take a maximum of 2 months.
Give or
Yeah.
take, or just 2 months?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and who's going to do that?
We have a firm that's under the contract that we have with the city. It's called Blanton and Associates, and they specialize in doing this type of work. And we,
Correct. However, they are charging us right now $35,000, and what we're trying to do is do our due diligence and see if we can get other pricing, to see if I can get a better price before we make a decision on that. So that's what right now we're currently looking for.
Okay.
Because at this point, I have nothing to compare it to, so I want to compare it before we make a decision on that.
We're looking at all options to see, make sure that the city of Socorro is paying really what's required, not more.
Mr. Garcia?
So phase 1 and phase 2, page 2, that would be an easier maintenance for our staff?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
On phase 1 and phase 2, on the one you have up right now?
Yes.
That would be easier maintenance for our staff?
Yes.
Instead of having the big one?
Yeah, neither one of these is gonna cover you for the 100-year storm, but once we build, say, phase one, the maintenance staff won't have to do, really much maintenance to it at all. And really, only if, it will overflow. But we
Mr.
just-
Reyes, can you speak into the speaker? They can't hear you in the back,
Oh.
please.
Yeah, the phase one will be constructed, so really, the staff won't have to do much maintenance at all. They'll just have to, if, in the event that you do get a real large rain, we're gonna construct a spillway so that it'll flow into the Mesa spur drain. So that's another thing, that's another issue that we need to confront, start talking to the irrigation district to allow us to water to spill over into their drain in case it does get a heavy rain.
Mr. Perez?
Not that I like paying the $3 million
Hey.
point at one time. But, when you do, let's say that we were to opt for the staggered, development of that area, then it would be stage one and then subsequent stage two. When you get into stage two, will there be anything that you have to, demolish from stage one?
No. We'll design it so that it'll be, there will be no redo, no reconstruction. It'll probably, phase two will be really just dirt work. Phase one, we have the culvert there at the road, which needs the water to get in there. So it'll be just really just excavation, and there'll be no, throwaway work at all.
Mr. Garcia? So, 2 months from now would be August, right? Am I mistaken? And then you would, let's say you start construction, from that time, what would be the complete date?
The construction?
Let's say, yeah.
For
from
half of
August.
that, you're looking at approximately 4 months of
4 months?
construction. Yes.
Half of the project?
Half, yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
so phase one, phase two, we would like to do all of it,
They'll probably look about 6 months.
About 6 months.
And that's another way to help the residents, not to have so much construction for continuously, give a break, and then maybe the next year we complete the construction.
Ms. Villalobos?
My concern is, how are we gonna pay for this? Do we take out a CO for it? Is that what the plan? That's my first question. My second, is there grants for it? Is there anything else that can help us out there?
Right now, we do have some money allocated from the capital program, which is right in back, and what we were gonna talk on on our workshop at 4 o'clock. But we have, I think it's $600,000 for the onion field, and the culvert is another 300, so we have $800,000 that we have, and that's one of the reasons that the update, I wanted to bring the update to council, because if we're not ready to spend that why invest in the archaeological study? Because we were gonna have to do it right over again if we take a year.
Okay.
So before you invest, you wanna make sure that you have the funding. Do you have the funding available right now? Yes, but you would have to cancel all of your other projects that you have pending for this coming year.
All of
But
them?
you have the money. Right now, there's $4.4 million in the capital, but you would have to stop paving and stop doing everything else that we're doing right now.
Ms. Villalobos?
My other concern is the constituents that are being affected. This is, can I say the word damn? Damn if we do, damn if we don't? I already said it. That's where we're at.
And I feel that that's the biggest frustration for me. I mean, me and Mr. Reyes had butted heads just because I feel that we've been trying to work on this since November, and every time that we, get momentum, we had already placed the bid, then the state comes and says you can't dig a hole without having this study, and the last thing we want to do is put the city in a liability. Right now, once we get that study done, the 2 months, the process that takes 2 months is taking it to the state, and the state saying yes, the historical, saying yes, you can continue digging. But before that, what I want to do is get the study, get the go-ahead, and then have my staff clean up, and what we have been doing for years, but right now, that's even at a halt. We can't go in there without them giving us the whole go-ahead.
I'm sorry,
Ms. Yep.
I have continuing questions. We cannot get the government involved in this? This is life or death for people that live.
FEMA's telling us no.
I know, but there's nothing that we can actually go as a group and speak to FEMA, speak to everybody until we're tired of speaking to them, or they're tired of hearing us and saying we have a great need. These people are in danger. Is
Yes,
there
you can.
any of that
yes,
that we
you
can do?
can. You can pick up the phone and call different agencies that are out there, but it's the political, that you have to apply pressure to other political parties in order to do it.
Just
I
to,
mean, but-
just to keep them up to date, because they weren't here when we, prior council went. We actually, the majority of members of council actually even went as far as to talk to the engineering firm. I mean, not the engineering firm, but we actually went to talk to the county, and then we also went to Albuquerque to talk to the
Corps of
no, not
Engineers?
the design, the what?
Corps of Engineers?
Yeah, the Corps of Engineers. Everything was all said and done. We talked to all our state reps and stuff like that, and there's nothing we can do because there's no funding. There was no funding, there is no funding,
But this is not a typical situation. This is
I
a
know,
life and death
And that's
situation.
something that we addressed. It's something that we went and we voiced our opinion everywhere. Anybody that would pick up the phone and listen to us, we addressed that. That's why if the only ones that were trying to help us was the county. But the county got into it with the Corps of Engineers because it goes back to the same thing. It's $100 million, actually it's $105 million with 0.2, to be exact, for something that could alleviate all of this. But since there's no funding, there's no money, we can't do anything. We have to tackle this situation ourselves. Even though this is not our problem, we can handle the rain that rains in Socorro, but this is runoff water. This is something that we have no control over. And because of that situation, nobody wants to give us a hand. The government also, FEMA says, hey, you're on your own. Basically, that's what it is. We already exhausted all of our avenues. The last thing is, that's why we have to do it ourselves, and if you want, I can give you the numbers. I still have them in my laptop.
Well,
But-
the runoff water, just so you know, is coming from Horizon. That's where it's coming from, and it's because we are lower than they are. All the rainwater that falls there runs down to Socorro into these neighborhoods.
Is that?
This has been going on for the longest time, and I know that these residents have paid taxes, have lived there, have gone through the flooding that we had. It's an issue, it's a health issue, because the water stands. They have brought this forth. We're trying to now correct it. I think that because it is one of the ones that gets hit the hardest, at no fault of theirs, because the runoff is from Horizon. How do we tell another municipality that we need $100 million from you to correct this? How do we do it? I don't see a situation to clear this up, okay?
As your engineer, and I understand all that, and that's, we want to help you in trying to build it in phases, at least in pieces, where you can at least start building it, get towards where you have the system constructed. So even this, what we show right here, this phase, if say you want to spend a little bit less, we can make it a little smaller, just to give you some relief, and depending on and then maybe next year do a little more, but we want to help you to I guess, work with you in terms of your budget, that way you can construct it in pieces.
And there's any ways that you can give us those options for those different versions
Pardon?
of what we can do in a smaller version, but to still help them out?
Yeah, that little blue part right there, might make it a little smaller for phase one. I mean, depending on there's a lot of things we can do. I mean, we can even, when we do the bids, we could possibly build in what they call bill alternates. Maybe have a couple segments and say, see what kind of bids we get. It all depends on what they come in with, the contractor come in with. If they come in with a very good price, it's basically dirt work. If they come in with a very good bid cost, maybe you can build a little more. So we're trying to see any avenues that can help give flexibility to build as much as you can with your budget you have.
Ms. Villalobos?
Just so everybody here understands why it's going to cost 3.8 or 3 or
3.8.
2.6, can you tell us what, is it a big hole that it's gonna cost us, or what is
It's-
it, the hole gonna have?
Basically, you're moving dirt, and if you're looking at, we estimate it's gonna cost about $5 a cubic yard of dirt. The whole basin is gonna be 400,000 cubic yards of dirt. And moving dirt, it takes a lot of machinery, it takes a lot of fuel, equipment, and where are you gonna put it too? So it seemed like, oh, that's in a hole, but, I mean, where are you gonna put that much dirt? And that's where, you know, maybe, and we get a lot of response from contractors. I think they like this job. It's a big job. I think we might get some good prices. You know, we're estimating about $5, but if somebody comes in at $3.50, well, that'll save you a lot of money, and maybe you can do a lot more. So maybe we'll have to create a way in the bid documents to allow flexibility to expand it if you do get a really good unit cost.
I'm sorry, just
Ms.
dirt?
Villalobos?
There's no gutters, there's no?
Well, you have your culvert, the one across underneath the Thunder Road. It brings the water from the arroyo in underneath Thunder Road. That is concrete. There's a box culvert there. And then you do have one concrete spillway where the water elevates too high. It's got to go somewhere. So we want to put it, let it drain into the spur. That's a spur drain. Other than that, it's just dirt basically.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
No questions?
Oh, do we have a motion?
What kind of motion are we gonna make?
Discussion and action to approve.
To move forward with the project, or?
Yes, move forward with the project.
Is it discussion and action to approve Denenbaum Engineering to provide status update on Onionville Basin excavation with his recommendation of starting either phase 1? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And starting with the archaeological study first?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And that should be completed within 2 months, and then the project in itself.
We proceed to phase 1, and like I said, we'll find creative ways to see if we can, if we get good prices, maybe we make it a little bigger, or if possible.
And you can go ahead and give us an update if you do get because right now you're saying it's 3.8. If you get better rates and everything else, we will bring forth that information to the council?
It'll be the option if you get better unit cost, if the Dakota wants to go a little bigger, or just, we'll do a base bid and then alternate to see if we can make it a little bigger.
Okay, so with the update status at the end of the archaeological?
I mean,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
it still has to go through a procurement process.
Yes. Can you work on both concurrently, getting the archaeological done at the same time doing RFPs?
Well, the archaeological study is gonna tell
we
us
can't.
whether we can dig or we can't.
So we can.
So if we
Yeah,
can't,
first.
then
And it costs $35,000.
that's the price that they have in their contract. However, we're going out to receive other pricing.
Mr. Garcia?
So if we can dig, if the archaeological study says we can dig, we're done?
It costs $35,000.
Well, if they were to find some I guess some sites to have, say some bones, something, there'll probably be ways to mitigate that, I think, and we'll have to explore that in that event. I'm hoping that they don't find anything, and we just go forward.
Do we have a plan B?
Well, I guess we have to look at the options once they do it, and we'll come back to you in one way or another to let you know what the findings were. But usually, if they do find something, they may want to excavate them and move them, or preserve them.
Thank you.
Whatever findings they have in there.
What do you think?
Thank you.
I'm sorry,
Ms. Villalobos?
I keep forgetting we have to raise our hand. What do you think we could find in there that would stop us from digging?
They might find some old, I guess it's some, let's say, old bones,
Bones?
maybe archaeological, maybe pottery or
Oh.
something from Indians or that type of thing.
Historical.
Yes.
I believe you had something at some other project, but
The
it's just
thing is,
anything that's,
the thing is, it's $35,000, and we don't even have the money to complete this project.
Ms. Reyes?
I understand we have to do the archaeological study first before we can even move anywhere, okay? Once we get the okay, we don't get the okay, then I think that's when we need to start doing a plan B. But we need to get that done first.
Yes.
And, in order to move forward, if we can. If not, then there's gonna have to be other decisions as to how we're gonna take care. Either it's, and I understand, you know, history ago, people passed away, they buried them wherever, you know, not necessarily cemeteries, and you have potteries and those kind of things. They will make that assessment, and I think we would need to have to abide by what they find, and
Yes.
then we can make a decision on that.
Yes, and it may be isolated to one area of it. Maybe we can make it, you know, a little smaller. So we'll look at all that.
Okay, well, that's a conversation.
So I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to direct staff to, look at different
Sir?
pricing, no? There's a motion.
There was a motion.
For what?
I made a motion.
What was
Oh,
your
I
motion?
apologize.
What was the motion?
Yes.
There was a motion.
To move forward with the
Which
project?
is, you have to elaborate, which is
Okay,
for the
which is
archaeological.
with the archaeological study, and then come back with the results, and then we will make a determination as to which, what we're going to do as far as the recommendation from the archaeological study.
But were we supposed to, go forward and look for competitive pricing for the archaeological study first? Or
That
is this
is in
part
your
of, or is this
contract.
part of this? Because,
Correct.
because one is directing him to move forward, which would say
Hold on.
$35,000 and people that he's got in the contract to conduct the archaeological study. But staff is recommending that we get different pricing from engineering
To have it
firms.
something, correct, in order for me to have something to compare, that way we can prove that we did our due diligence in order to make a decision on
Counsel.
how we're spending
Okay.
our funds.
Council, that's why it's very important to signal me who's gonna go first, because then we're gonna start cutting members' conversations. So please notify who wants to talk, so then I can call you out. Because it's kind of rude if we interrupt you, or Mr. Perez, or Mr. Garcia, or Ms. Villalobos. Okay?
So the motion is.
So,
Okay, would you read the motion, please?
Do we have a second?
but do you want to
I'm not done.
amend your,
Amend it
So
so that the engineer can go out and get
your price?
different pricing?
Well, we would have to go out and get different pricing, because they already have the pricing.
They already have their price, is
Plus,
that correct?
you all have already approved their work order. But before that we move on with any type of project, it has to be authorized, and I wanna make sure that we're doing the correct decision by paying $35,000. That's why I wanna go out and see what other pricing is available.
So the amendment would be, with finding out different costs? Yeah. Yes,
Do I come back to council?
and then come back to council. with-
Before we start the archaeological study?
If we can, yeah, because we don't start with 35, and we end up finding we can find somebody with 27, then let's go with the 27.
Exactly.
And so we don't want to start a project and then find out we could have done it cheaper, so we could do it cheaper, right? So
Correct, so do we
Or
have to
it's
bring?
expensive.
Okay.
What was that, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, so do we have a second?
No, I don't have
Oh,
a second.
is there
I
more?
just want to say something. To me, $35,000 is way too much money. 27 is too much money when we don't even have the money to complete the project. Can't we just table it until we actually go green, have the green light, the full green light?
Oh, you're right. Oh, Mr. Perez?
But either way, either way, we need to get clarification whether we can, I mean, the whole project, from what I understand, is contingent upon not finding anything that's of archaeological significance. So by that, we have, it's a necessary evil. And so I'm hoping it doesn't run $35,000, but that's what you are going to determine, whether or not there is something more cost-effective
Exactly.
companies that will do that. So at this point, whether we spend money now or spend money later, it has to be spent, because
order
that
to find
way,
out whether we can proceed
either way
or
to
not
move
with the
forward. And if the project is delayed 1 year, 2 years, whatever the case may be, we still have that archaeological study already done and prepared so that we can, as part of the packet, to finish that project.
Okay, Ms. Reyes, followed by Ms. Villalobos, and that'll be the end of the discussion.
Okay, the only thing I'm saying is that in order to get to point B, we have to start with A, and that is with the study, and that will tell us in what direction we need to go.
Correct.
And what we need to do. As
Correct.
far as the studies, being that this is going to be, this is a large land, and I understand it has to be done either in sections or the entire parcel.
I think we'll do the whole parcel at one
Okay,
time, because it'll be more cost
That is a
effective.
lot of digging and looking for artifacts, bones, or anything of that. So it is time consuming, but I think we need to start and then get the end result of that study, and then we know what we need to do.
That is the proper way to proceed.
I have two questions. One, well, for you, I'm sorry. Once we do the study, once we have the study, how long does that study expire? If we can't start the project for 2 or 3 years?
No.
It does not?
No.
Okay. The other thing is, are you guys aware that we have no money? We have very little money, and we're gonna spend 25, 30, 35, 27, 15 for something that we don't have the money to continue. We're running out of money. And we could use that money for other projects. I know we need the study to continue, but it's gonna stop there because we don't even have the money to continue. If the study comes back and everything's, green light, we don't have the money to dig. And we just spent that money when we could have used it somewhere else.
Thank you. So, do I have a motion on the floor? Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Can we have a speaker? Lorenza,
As I was saying earlier, financial reports are very important and very critical, but it was just brought to my attention that you all had a budget meeting this afternoon, but you didn't have the meeting because you didn't have quorum. There is the problem. Your budgets are the ones that tell you how you're gonna function throughout the year, but yet today you all had a budget meeting to schedule us for the next year, and yet you didn't meet because you didn't have a quorum. I'm concerned because since the day one, and I know that the district at large is very good with his mouth in talking, because when we had the floods, I came before him and I told him about the county and how we were supposed to jump on board with them. It was only gonna cost us about, at that time, was $100,000 to jump on board with the county. There were a lot of stuff that they could have done with us, that we're talking way back when the flooding. Nobody did anything. What the city manager said earlier, she's right. It's all political. They have been using this instrument to be politically inclined to sit in this council. And the people, what's happened to them? Their houses got flooded. Yes? Why? Because your engineer that you had here detoured an arroyo to these houses. Your fault. But let me tell you one thing. The fault is here because your responsibility is to come to these meetings. Your budget meetings are your critical point of the whole thing.
Mrs. Friday,
If you can give me an opportunity to talk, I would like to talk to you. Call me. 203-2551.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Victor Pérez?
Aye.
Iván Colón Villalobos?
No.
María Reyes?
Yes.
And Alejandro Garcia?
Aye.
Number 16, introducing first reading and calling for public hearing on an ordinance amending Chapter 46 zoning to amend various sections thereunder.
Wasn't it 15? 15 is
Oh,
next.
with 15, sorry, my bad. Okay. Introducing first reading and calling for public hearing on ordinance for a proposed rezoning of Lot 2, Block 1, Villa Moreno subdivision at 188 Horizon Boulevard for C1 light commercial to C2 general commercial for commercial business.
Good afternoon.
This property, the petitioner is asking rezoning from C1 light commercial to C2 general commercial. This property is located at 188 Horizon. He still hasn't decided what the type of business he's gonna want to establish there. In the future, he just mentioned he wanted to sell beer and wine. The first step before he's able to sell beer and wine is to rezone it to a C2. That's why he's asking for a C2 commercial. In the meantime, he has a small business. He sells food.
Is it a food truck?
It's a food truck, yes, sir. But he wants to expand the business. Wants to make it bigger. But because he doesn't have a lot of money or his budget is not too big, he wants to start with a rezoning and then later in the future maybe apply for a conditional use permit for beer and wine. For that reason, we're establishing a condition to approve it, but with a condition to not allow him to sell beer and wine at the moment.
You don't have oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. I apologize. Okay. Now, this is a place where we were talking about at our last meeting where it's gonna be, or we approved it to be I'm sorry, I get the meetings confused because I come to almost all the meetings for all the departments. This is where they're gonna have food vendors, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Food vendors.
Oh, okay.
Any questions?
No?
I have a question,
Mr. Pettis?
With a conditional use permit, right, is that, if I understand correctly, he's not, the owner's not to sell liquor, now. Does he come back to reapply if he wants to, or how does that work?
For the meantime, he wants to rezone to C2 because the application is too expensive for him. And then for the conditional use permit, the price is the same. So he wanted to do one at a time. First the rezoning and then the conditional use permit because he's still not too sure if he's gonna wanna do that. But in the meantime, he wants to apply for the C2. And yes, he can come back in the future and apply for the conditional use permit. Yes, because he would already have the C2 zoning on the property.
Okay, no comment. Okay.
Okay.
That's it?
We can't ask questions?
Can we?
We
Is
need a
there,
motion.
do we need a motion?
To call for a public hearing? Make a motion to approve the introduction, first reading, calling for a public hearing of ordinance for the proposed rezoning of Lot 2, Block 1, via Morena subdivision at 188 Horizon Boulevard from C Light to C2, which is light commercial, to general commercial for commercial business.
With a condition?
With the condition, following the condition of number 1, no beer or wine should be sold until a conditional use permit is acquired.
Second.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes,
Yes.
and Alejandro Garcia.
Aye. Introduction and first reading of calling for public hearing of an ordinance amending chapter 46 zoning to amend various sections thereof pertaining to abolishment of R3 high-density residential district. The penalty between provided in section 46-20-3 of the Socorro City Code.
Motion to approve the first reading as written in agenda item number 16.
Motion to approve as written, item number 16.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a first and a second?
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes, and Alejandro Garcia.
Aye. Just for our constituency, just so they can be well aware of what we did, this is just to say that we no longer have R3s, correct? Right? Okay? Because we took this action a couple of months ago, we just have to redo our ordinances, and that's what it is. Just letting you know. Okay. Number 17. Number 17, introduction, first reading of calling for public hearing of an ordinance amending chapter 36 of the 38 subdivisions to amend section 3813 summary procedures to require the joint approval of the city manager and the city building official or his designee to perform the functions described therein, and to amend section 3820 fees and the procedure for establishment of fee schedules. Do I have a motion?
We can't get a presentation.
Oh, yeah, but I don't know.
Joe?
Joe? It's gotta move quicker.
This item, we're just going to be trying to remove the power from the building official to approve subdivisions. And because right now, as it is, the building official is authorized to approve minor plats administratively. Minor plat will be a subdivision that is made out of 4 lots or less. By doing this, in the future, it would require a presentation before the Planning and Zoning Commission and the approval of the City Council combined to approve minor plats.
However, it's not written that way. I know that during the Planning and Zoning Commission, that was the recommendation, but as I'm reading it here, it's just saying that the city manager and the building official could make the decision. So I don't know if we have to.
The way it's drafted now, it requires joint approval. It's gotta be, yeah, it's gotta be 2 people, the city manager and the building official or that official's designee.
But the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning was that they wanted it to go to them and then have council make that decision. And the only thing that was happening there is just like, let's say I wanted to rezone to a R2 to build a duplex. It was denied, but then administratively, I could request to split my lot, and administratively, the Planning and Zoning Director would be able to approve it. Having, the neighbors would have the same result, 2 different dwellings in 1 lot. So that just didn't seem right. That's why I wanted to add someone else, because it was between the Planning Director and the mayor.
Mr. Perez?
Yes.
So then, at this point, even though you would require 2, both of, well, the ones that the people identified here can still administratively approve
Correct.
minor plats, right?
That's how it's written. However, I do know that the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend that it go through in other words, we don't have the authority. Only Planning and Zoning Commission make the recommendation to council, so council can have the ultimate decision. But it's not written like this. And so I don't know if we have to bring it back with the correct wording?
Yeah, that'd be cleaner, otherwise
So
I
just
don't wanna
delete.
risk getting the publication wrong. If that's council's wish, if council wants to change it so that it's not that administratively, it has to be approved by council, I would say postpone, frankly, I'd say delete this. Let us redraft it with that requirement.
The directions where the director no longer has the authority, are you still gonna have a joint, or are you gonna have single?
Well, right now, the Planning and Zoning Director would have the authority to
Approve, but it still has
approve.
to go to
However,
council.
I gave a directive that is not gonna happen until this gets approved.
Council. So, do I have a motion?
Motion to delete?
That's the
Do I have a
motion we
second?
requested. A second.
Okay. So, a motion was made?
To delete.
But you understand that it's going back and
With the correct
with
verbiage.
the amendment, okay. Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. Number 28, discussion and action on the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro Master Plan and rezoning of Track 4-1, Block 1, Socorro Grant at 1069 Coca Road from RE Rural Estates to M1 Light Industrial for heavy equipment operations.
What item are you on?
This case was presented before the Planning and Zoning Commission. They recommended denial. The petitioner is asking for an M1 classification to allow the storage of heavy equipment. This is the property right here. It's located at 1069 Coker Road. And the way it is right now, there's a lot of heavy equipment stored on the property. The man, he spoke at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and he mentioned that he uses the equipment to help the neighbors because they are located in a flood zone. And every time they have a heavy rain, they get affected, and he's the one that helps the neighbors restore the streets. Basically, the street located in front of the property is private property, so the city is not allowed to go in there. And that's the reason why he was asking for the M1. He's also doing repairs of the heavy equipment in the property. Some of the neighbors disagree with the storage of the heavy equipment. So the recommendation from the commission was denial.
Ms. Villalobos?
I was there when they brought this to Planning and Zoning Commission. The thing with these properties here is that when it rains heavily, they get flooded with sand. These properties, as a realtor, these properties are no good for sale. These properties here, you won't be able to construct homes in the future. So originally, right now, it's agricultural, is that correct? And,
yes.
And when you have agricultural, you also have heavy equipment, is that correct?
They had a very bad storm in 2013, and the arroyo that's coming from the I-10, this big arroyo right here, buried the houses, and you could only see the top of the roof. This is one of the people who were affected by the storm. And that's why he's asking for permission to keep the equipment there. Some of the equipment that he has there is even buried in the sand. You can't even see them anymore.
And that's what I'm saying. It's no good for residential. It's
Correct.
no good for agricultural.
Yes, ma'am.
It is no good.
No good.
And therefore, I think the use that he has is, perfect, because these properties are no good for anything else.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know they were denied, but some of the residents were here, and they did say, or one did say that, if it wasn't for his tractor, their house would still be buried in sand.
Yes.
So the reason they purchased the tractor was to help the neighborhood. That's my...
The applicant is here. Is he
Yes.
allowed to say a word?
No, he's not. Okay. Ms. Reyes?
Does he have any other equipment other than that tractor on his property?
He has a lot of different equipment. He has like tractor trailers, and he has cars. And it looks like he also has like some containers, like those semi-truck containers. Some of them look like they're being repaired or used for parts or something. But he does have other equipment.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I heard the motion correctly, which was to deny?
No,
Is
the
that-
recommendation.
The recommendation was
Was to deny. We've not made a motion yet.
There's no motion?
No.
There's a motion. Oh, we didn't do a motion?
No.
No?
No, he talked about the planning and zoning recommends denial. Okay.
We need a motion before we discuss.
Question.
We need a motion.
Oh,
We need a motion before we
Motion to
discuss it.
deny
Do I have a second?
for discussion.
for
Second.
discussion? Okay.
Okay, now, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Now that the motion is to deny,
Yes,
I would
I know.
recommend permitting the property owner to speak.
Okay. Do
Motion to suspend rules.
do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Right
Mr.
ahead.
Garcia.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I greatly appreciate that. I am a resident of the Coker area. I've been there for 2 years now. My mother-in-law has lived there for going on 40 years now. And it is true that we did get flooded. In fact, when we had the rains this January, we got flooded. And it was Mr. Acosta with his bulldozer, with his backhoe, and with his bobcat that actually helped fix the road. You are aware that we've had the issue that the Reclamation Bureau blames the county, and it's a hot potato and nobody wants to take responsibility. And since this man has moved into our neighborhood, in fact, we have lost the road every time. For those of us who live on the other side of Coker, we cannot cross it. And if not for his heavy machinery, we would be in a heap of trouble. So this man, out of his own goodness, helps us out. Furthermore, I'm in the property next to it. We actually had about 5 acres of nothing but salt cedar tree. And he actually, with his bulldozers, cleared the property out. We now have cattle on that property, and we're actually beginning to grow organic vegetables. You're more than welcome to go out. I'd love to show you around. The properties out there are getting cleaned up. As a resident, as someone who has 3 small children who lives there, I greatly appreciate the Acostas being there because they help us with wanting nothing in return. They're good neighbors. Furthermore, that area that we're in, it's mainly people from El Paso. They use our area as a sportsplex for their lives. They go down our road 50, 60 miles an hour on their dirt bikes, on their motorbikes, ATVs, and we're talking about at all times of the night. They're usually working until about 11 p.m. or midnight. So it's nice to have them there because that's another group of people while there's people going in and out. And they're drinking, they're throwing bottles. It's a mess down there. I mean, and a lot of the times we see them park on Anderson. They drive in, they get on the motorbikes, and they use our neighborhood like it's their personal amusement. I don't think they'd appreciate it if I took my pickup and did donuts in their front yard on the east side of wherever they live. I wouldn't do that because I have common courtesy. So as a resident in that area, I strongly urge you to please consider allowing them to give them this. They do work. They are being productive. Then they hire people too. These are people who need work. These men will hire them and they'll put them on. So as a resident of the Coker area, I implore you to please allow them to have this because they are a benefit to us, especially we're going to get rains again, and I can guarantee you we're going to get flooded again, and I can guarantee you our road is going to get eroded again. And if they're not there to help us, we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Mr. Pettis?
Sir, would you please state your name?
My name is Rick Avalos, and I'm one of the neighbors. I'm at 11651 Coker. I'm actually right next to them. If you're looking straight at it, I'm to the left of them, and then there's a property next to us, and then a property down. So I'm actually in between all the properties, and I can tell you again, they've been a godsend, especially with the flooding.
Rick, and your last name?
Avalos, A-V-A-L-O-S. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for allowing me to say these words. I really appreciate you allowing me to come up here. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them for you.
I do have 3 concerns, and they may not have anything to do with this matter, but that general area for our staff, that general area is agriculture?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, so then we have residences on agriculture.
Yes, on the, like you said, there's a property next door, and then there's this little area right here. I believe there's like 3 families who still live there, but they do have this berm around their homes because when the arroyo comes down, it hits them very hard. So those are the only 3, and then I believe there's another one who lives right here. Everything else is abandoned. Nobody lives there because it's just a wreck.
So then, and again, and I don't mean to be biased, but just for my own clarification, so we have residents, we have homesteads on agriculturally designated land. Yes?
No, sir.
No?
These properties are classified single-family residential.
Good, okay, that's fine, okay.
After Mr. Pettis.
2, if the proposal is, or the petition is to change it to an M1, well, it's heavy-duty operation, but it's heavy-duty equipment operation. But is it also heavy-duty equipment maintenance? Do you know of?
Yes, sir. Under M1, it's allowed, yes.
Okay, so then wouldn't that presuppose that there needs to be the necessary environmental standards for oil, for all those things to be able to get rid of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then we're potentially, even though it's a piece of real estate that maybe has no value, there's still a water table underneath. And so then at that point, if there is some, God forbid, that they continue with that kind of operation, that whatever chemical equipments, any industrial chemicals may seep into potentially may seep, and especially if it's sand, it'll seep even quicker. So I think that there's some environmental issues that aren't being addressed.
Yes. That would be an issue that we would have to report to TCEQ. They would need to take a look at the property and enforce, because we don't have an environmental department. It will have to be addressed to environmental.
So I'm sorry, I need to continue these things, but I'm not going to do it.
I have a question. The type of equipment that the gentleman, Mr. Acosta, has, which one is Mr. Acosta? Pablo? Okay. I understand, Mr. Pablo
Spanish.
Acosta. You're okay. All right. If these vehicles that you have there, are you repairing them? Are they yours, or are you just, do you just have them for storage? What is it that you have all these vehicles when you want to go ahead and want to go from a rural estate to a heavy equipment operation?
Sí. Digo que todos los rancheros tienen sus tractores, su equipo de trabajar en sus ranchos. No sé por qué a nosotros nos han estado molestando tanto por eso. No tenemos una fábrica trabajando ahí ni nada. No hacen lo que cambia una llanta de un tractor, o tiene el tráiler con el que trabajamos ahí parado. No le hacemos daño a nadie, nomás. Nosotros somos los que arreglamos el camino ahí, porque ahí sí, ustedes saben que ahí no hay pavimento, no hay agua, no hay gas. Entonces ahí nosotros somos los que le damos mantenimiento a la calle. Y pues yo no veo nada malo que tengamos ahí las trocas, pues tienen ahí todos los vecinos de ahí. Es raro el que no tenga trailers, tractores. Pues sí tenemos poco sucio, pero ya limpiamos bastante.
Mr. García, ¿no hace reparaciones de las trocas ahí?
Sí, en veces pues hago cambios de llantas cuando se requiere.
Pero no es negocio de...
No es negocio, yo hago mi propio servicio a mis trocas como alguien que trabaja en su garaje, en su carro.
Ms. Villalobos?
No, he answered the question.
Okay.
I wanted to say that he does not have he's not conducting a business in
Of
that area
repairs.
of repairs.
Mhm.
He is taking care of his own vehicle. And again, I'm not sure about the environmental, if they were gonna use it as a business, they would already been doing it. And they're not, because they are truck drivers. Again, because this property it's one of those properties that doesn't conform, because it gets filled with sand, and it's, unfortunate for them when they purchased it. I don't think they realized that they would be going through what they're going through right now with all that sand. You wouldn't be able to sell that property, and then it'd be there, you have to pay taxes on it, and it just sits there, and they're doing a good thing for the community.
Mr. Perez?
I didn't bring the pictures that I had in the previous meeting. I should have.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, I'd just like to say a few things too. A lot of people are under the impression that we moved there. A lot of those homesteads were there before the arroyo came down. That arroyo didn't start affecting these people until early 2000, because of the development in the east side. So from the time that homestead was there until the early 2000s, that was not an issue. Furthermore, I completely agree with you on the environmental standards. I take groundwater from them. No one wants to give us water. That's a whole other issue. It's something that, again, all the city organizations pass around. I'm currently in the ESC number 2. I'm a commissioner on there, the former Mayor Clint. I completely understand the way the law is working there. But it is frustrating for us in our community. We have no help. No one, Socorro, I live here, this is my home, I'm not moving from there. So to let them be there would be a great benefit to us. Again, I have 2 wells, I completely agree with your environmental standards, but to be quite honest, sir, I'm the one who lives there. I'm fully aware of that.
But you realize that we have the overall responsibility
I understand that.
for the
And so-
water.
But if you don't have jurisdiction over that, then let them deal with that with the state agency.
Okay, but I'm not gonna get into an
No, I
argument.
understand. I just wanted to respond to that, because we're the ones that live there, we're the ones that are, and I understand there's the whole groundwater table, I understand there's the whole.
If you let me make a
Yes, sir,
point,
of course, of course.
para los señores que están al fondo, miren, yo no tengo problema que tengan tractores, porque pues si son gente de agricultura, pues es obvio que necesitan tractores, ¿verdad? Pero tractor en el sentido que sea de agricultura o tractor que sea de una semi, o donde ustedes manejan una de 18 cambios y dos de 18-wheeler, ¿verdad? Que se le dice. ¿Mande? Okay. Ahora en la descripción que nos dieron, mi entendimiento fue de que tienen equipo que se puede usar comercialmente para componer caminos. Is that correct or is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct. They have a bulldozer there. They have a flatbed truck. They also have a couple of semi-tractor trailer trucks and a couple of storage boxes that look like the back part of a semi-truck.
Entonces, esa es mi preocupación. Mi preocupación es de que al momento que están dándole mantenimiento al equipo, y más bien a la SEMA, ¿verdad? El tractor de 18 ruedas, ese es parte de un negocio, es parte del negocio que ustedes tienen de ser troqueros, de ser choferes. Entonces, en el momento que le dan mantenimiento al equipo, ya está impactando, eso es una actividad comercial, aunque no están cobrando, pero es para el comercio de ustedes. Así lo interpreto yo. Entonces, mi preocupación es de que el aceite y todo lo demás se vaya deslizando o circulando por la arena, llegando a la mesa del agua, ¿verdad? Entonces, esa es mi preocupación. Ahora, el comité que repasa todo esto, como ustedes ya bien lo saben, están recomendando que no aceptemos la propuesta. ¿Okay?
Todo el aceite se guarda en tambos, eso se guarda en tambos y se lleva a un lugar a reciclar. No lo tiramos en el suelo, se hace las cosas como se tienen que hacer.
No, eso es lo que uno espera. Sí,
entonces,
claro.
yo digo, si la ciudad de Socorro nunca nos ha reconocido como parte de ella, nos cobran taxes, nos cobran el riego, no tenemos riego porque es pura arena, no podemos sembrar. Entonces, no tenemos agua, no tenemos gas, ni agua puro de pozo. Entonces yo digo, ¿para qué están ahí metiéndose con nosotros si nosotros somos los que nos las arreglamos por nosotros solos ahí?
Mr. Pérez, let me get this. Yo entiendo su frustración, su concilio, pero nosotros en la ciudad tenemos reglas que nosotros tenemos que obedecer. Afortunadamente, ustedes están en una situación donde la ley les está dando y diciendo que no están con todos los requisitos que uno requiere como la ciudad. Entonces, por eso yo entiendo las decisiones de el concilio, cómo más o menos, por qué y cómo más o menos piensan. Esto es para Mr. Pérez. Would you consider the thought of, I know that there was a time where county decided that on vehicles, on junkyards and salvage yards, to place a big slab of cement, because the way it works is that when you purchase vehicles, you take them, they put them on that, and then they start dismantling them, so that any oil won't percolate to the soil, to eliminate contamination on the water table. Is that something that you might be open to consider, or because I will say this, I was here where we could not help these
I know
individuals.
that this has been a 30-year-old.
And yes, and it's been a problem since ever. It's something that, you know, you guys have to discuss and come with an option or a solution. If you guys feel that you don't want to, don't. I'm just saying, you know, there might be some options that you guys could consider. They do help the residents there. I've seen it. I walked on top of that roof. Yes, when I got elected, 3 months later, I was walking on top of that roof. And we, the city, couldn't do anything because it's private property. And we cannot use any funding, any manpower, nothing whatsoever to go into private residence. So it's something that, you know, you guys.
I don't want to be an obstacle. I mean, I know what the.
Of course, and I totally agree with you on the percolation and the water table. I totally agree. I'm just throwing something out there to see if you guys, you know, what you guys think. That's just my 2 cents, that's it. Ms. Reyes?
Is it possible that they can go ahead and do what you just suggested and have it approved, Mr. Terrazas?
It's possible. In fact, one of the requirements in the Muni Code says that if they're going to be doing any repairs, it has to be in an enclosed building or within an enclosed building.
When you work on your own vehicle, it has to be in an enclosed vehicle?
Yes, it says repairs must be done within an enclosed building.
For personal.
It doesn't say personal or commercial use. It just says, the Muni Code says under M1, repairs done to vehicles must be done within an enclosed building.
Buenas tardes.
¿Cuál es su nombre?
Señor, ¿se identifica, por favor? ¿Se identifica, por favor?
Soy Andrés Acosta, soy el propietario del 1099 Cocker, de la propiedad. Pues nosotros queremos seguir las reglas de socorro, ¿verdad? Pero pues no se nos hace justo tampoco que pagamos taxes, pagamos el agua. Doña Katy, la suegra de Rishi, tiene más de 30 años viviendo ahí. Dice que ha pagado servicios de agua por más de 30 años y de riego, de agua también. Y la calle Anderson, que está poquito más para el otro lado de la ciudad, pegado a Clint, esa la pavimentaron, la hicieron nueva, muy suave todo. Y pues acá, pues yo cuando llego tengo que meterla 4x4 porque me atasco y pues pues queremos que la piensen, pues no le hacemos daño a nadie, no le hacemos daño al ambiente, a ninguna persona ni nada.
Okay, can I be the last one and then we can move forward?
Mr. Mayor, City Council, would you, and thank you for throwing around those ideas, would you consider giving them an extension so they're able to build that stuff, give us time to get that up to code? That way they can continue to be there. We're trying to work, I understand that there's ordinances that govern the city that mayors have to play by, the City Council, I completely understand that. But if there's a way you could give them some time to do that, that way we can stay within the bounds of the law. And everybody wins in this case.
Ms. Reyes?
Mr. Martinez? Is there any possibility that we could give them an extension in order to work to see, in order for them to be able to do maybe that cement to kind of rectify the situation, being that they do have, my understanding is an ordinance, they need a enclosed area for repair, and the cement, if they're willing to do that, give them the time to do that? We can postpone it?
Wait, time out. But there's one thing to consider as well, is that we're not just saying that it's just vehicles, it's work related as well. So I mean, we're talking about zone changing.
We're just doing the zone change, but it's not commercial. This is their personal vehicle that they have. So the only thing is that we can go ahead and we can postpone it for how long, sir? If we do the meeting for,
how long will it take them?
1 or 2, 2 meetings? That would be, give them 30 days. If they're willing to accept the conditions?
For the motion is.
Or for the motion?
But
We can make that motion? There's already a motion.
There's a motion on
already
the
a
floor.
motion. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask
Yes.
la propuesta es esta. No queremos hacer obstáculos a ustedes, ¿verdad? de hacer lo que tienen que hacer. Pero parte de la consideración es los asuntos ambientales, ¿verdad? Estamos diciendo que si tiran una plancha, un shop no muy lujoso, no lujoso, pero que tenga la plancha para poder estacionar los vehículos al momento de que les tienen que cambiar el aceite o trabajar en ellos, y así, porque para mí esa es la preocupación mayor, de que se vaya filtrando los aceites y todo lo demás al agua. Eso es una preocupación ambiental. Entonces, eso sería lo que han propuesto el Cabildo, de que ustedes construyeran una plancha más un techo. It would have to be a permanent structure? Yes. It has to be a permanent structure. Bueno, una estructura, un edificio permanente, pues, para poder y pues también para ustedes también les beneficia, porque no están afuera trabajando en el equipo, o sea, también
En el clima.
es una inversión de todas maneras, ¿verdad?
Sí, pues de hecho ese es el plan que traemos nosotros, ya estamos ahí, ya tenemos planeado más o menos dónde lo vamos a hacer. Y sí queremos hacer un shop porque pues también está canijo el sol, ¿verdad? Y pues sí, si nos dan un mes, unos 2 meses para hacerlo, ¿verdad?
2 months. 2 months. Well, there's a motion already on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor.
Was there a speaker? We have 2 speakers.
3 speakers.
And the motion is to deny.
Yes.
Okay, so,
So
are
we-
speakers, any more speakers?
Our first speaker is Daniel Hernandez.
Hello, good afternoon. I wish you guys could pass the speakers that were signed in before you give these people their hopes up. I'm in the Zoning and Planning Commission. Now, if this gentleman will show you the structures that are in the lot, you will see junk vehicles, you will see tires, you see everything. Now, the thing, we weren't gonna deny it. We said, go ahead and do it, but it was a business. They said they were conducting business there. Now, if you guys are gonna allow them to do a slab of cement and a roof, then everyone's gonna want that. No one's gonna wanna do a business. They're just gonna build a slab of cement, a roof, and they're gonna start fixing semis. The thing with us was, I hate for this to happen again. Why are they not giving you the information that zoning and planning had? Not only that, we said, okay, gentlemen, you can do your business there if you can build a wall. They said, it's sand, the wall's not gonna withstand. It's gonna knock it down. We said, okay, if you can't have a wall, then you can't have a business. Now, there was oil, there was tires. Now, he can zoom in this picture, he can show you. He's not doing it. I don't know why. He can go in full detail and show you whatever is in that. He's just showing you the little, it looks like small ants. Now, if he can zoom in, he's gonna tell you. I'm not against that. I'm just against, if we give them the free will of doing whatever they want and they're gonna use it as a business, then other people are gonna come and gonna say, let me build a slab of cement and let me build a roof.
Mr. Hernandez, your time is up.
My time is up? This
Yes.
gentleman spoke 3 times. And you're telling me my time was up?
Yes, sir.
They were suspended.
No, for them.
But you, here the gentleman, the lawyer said, if you're gonna deny, the only one who can speak was the owner. You know what?
Lorenza Freire.
Well, I just want to say something to my council members. Council members, your planning and zoning ordinance, section 4654, your charter appointed a commission to do the investigations. I just found out why they denied it. I don't understand why you didn't explain to them why they denied the zoning. And I gotta hand it to Alderman in District 3. You're absolutely right. You're caring about us at the bottom. Yes, all of that's coming down here, and it is going to help. And District number 4, yes, your ideas are good, but you gotta understand one thing. Everything trickles down. And with water has no respect, okay? And yes, you make this an M1, you're opening the doors to everybody, but what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And let me tell you one thing. You apply the rules to me, I think you should apply the rules to everybody. It says here that your Planning and Zoning Commission is supposed to propose to you all. It seems to me that you're repeating what they did. Then what's the sense of having a Planning and Zoning Commission? Why don't everybody just come here to you? Because you knock down everything they do. You give them the
Mrs. Friday,
power
your
and
time
you
is
take
up.
it away from them. Please, you have the rule. You need to abide by them. And you know, he's right.
Mrs. Friday,
We
your
don't
time
get
is
enough
up.
time
Thank you,
to
Ms.
talk,
Friday.
and the other ones too. That's
Your time
very
is up, Ms.
unfair.
Friday.
Ralph Duran? No? Dos smaller speakers? Victor Perez?
I understand that we have a bigger priority here, a bigger standard of responsibility. Aye.
Iván Colón Villalobos?
What is the motion? I'm sorry.
To deny.
It was denied, we never.
Hold on, one time ago. We're gonna deny the action that planning and zoning took?
No, we're not.
Or we're gonna
We're
deny?
going to
The
approve
rezoning.
Okay,
denial
okay.
that-
We're gonna approve the denial, okay. Perfect. We're just doing it on our own.
It's a proposed amendment to the proposed zoning change, so if council wishes to deny the zoning change, the appropriate motion would be to deny the
So
But they could come back once they put that building. And
No.
no
No.
building.
No.
They can apply for another zoning change, but there's a time limit with mandatory.
Mhm.
If you postpone it, then obviously not acting on denial or approving time.
So, Mr. Perez, could you?
So I'll go ahead and amend my motion
Amend-
this
yes.
time to deny the rezone of said property.
Do I have a second? Anyone? Second?
Does it die for lack of a second?
There is no second.
It dies for lack of a second. Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Do another have another motion?
Would it be okay then to go ahead and make the motion to allow them an extension, or how was it that it was worded, Mr. Martinez? Just postpone the item for 2 meetings, or 2
2
meetings?
meetings is a
Is-
month.
is a
They're
month.
asking for 2 months.
Okay. Motion to postpone for 2 months in order on the rezoning to see if they wish to comply with the specifications or the criteria in order, and my understanding is that when they go back out there, you, Mr. Avalos, okay, you can attest to the fact that they don't have and they don't work on this property, and they will clean up the junkyard and everything else and comply. Then it would be for the 2 months to suspend well, not suspend, but for the 2 months. I'm sorry.
The applicant did mention that he already started cleaning up the property, and if you want to, on the following meeting, I'll bring you up-to-date pictures of the property. Like the gentleman said, I could show you the pictures that I had before, but I don't have them here today in the meeting. But in the following meeting, I'll bring you, on the same date of the meeting, I'll bring you the pictures of the property from that date.
An update on that?
So you'll see what's there now.
Okay, but we still have the 2 months postponement in that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So do we have a second?
So your motion is to postpone for 2 months?
Yes, and Mr. Gracias is going to update us on the condition of the property as well.
Second.
Victor Perez?
No.
Iván Colón Villalobos?
Yes.
María Reyes?
Yes.
Alejandro García?
Aye.
Just for the record, I would have denied because we're gonna set precedents for somebody else to do it.
The thing is that they don't,
That's it.
they don't live in that property.
Go ahead.
They don't have that same property. We gotta be
29.
open.
Discussion and action on a proposed amendment to the City of Socorro Plan and rezoning of Track 15A, Block 16, Socorro Grant at 155 Moon Road, R1, single-family residential to an R2, medium-density residential for an apartment complex. Do I have a motion?
Motion to deny.
Okay, one more time, please.
And again,
Motion
it'll-
to deny.
it'll be-
The, I'm sorry.
Where you recommend?
Oh, sure, it's better.
I'll go ahead and make, if it's okay with Mrs. Reyes, to, motion to deny the, changing of the, proposed amendment of rezoning from an R1 to an R2. In other words, keep it as an R1.
Second.
That is my motion.
Did he, was that
Second.
the original motion?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Or 29, right?
29.
29.
Any speakers?
Yes, we have several. Henry Duran.
Thank you.
Alice Duran.
To keep it as an R1. Great, thank you very much. Oh, we have to
It's
say
not
that
a vote
it has not officially, it has to be voted on. But,
You
okay.
have
It's just
two.
a motion.
You
It's
have
just
two
a
that have
motion.
agreed.
It hasn't been approved, just a
You,
motion.
you
We
have
get a
to
vote.
wait till it goes down the
Yeah,
line.
because
Thank you.
Daniel Hernández. Juan Fresques. Rita García. Alicia Fresques. Lorenza Freire.
I would like to say that you all have made a very wise decision based on the facts. There are our riches here in Socorro are our historical districts. And these people that came before you are living in the historical portions of the city of Socorro. Nobody has ever preserved our historical heritage here in Socorro. I'm not from Socorro, I moved in, but I learned a lot about it. When we incorporated with one intent to protect the history of Socorro. But yet it's sad that comes to this, everybody does whatever they please. And it takes people like them to come up here and ask you and demand you to do so. As I ask you and demand you to enforce your rules, yes, but what applies to one, you gotta apply it to the other, because it's not fair for you to say yes to Joe and no to Mike, because it's not fair. But then again, like the city manager said, political. Let's stop that political thing, because it is that political stuff that turns it into corruption. We don't want corruption in Socorro. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ralph Duran. Eighteen through 38. 18 and? Victor Perez?
and District 3 happens to be my district, I understand all the concerns, so yes.
Iván Colón Villalobos?
Yes, can I ask a couple of questions? May I?
No, we already called the vote.
I'm sorry?
We already called for the vote.
Okay. Aye, yes, definitely.
María Reyes? Yes. And Alejandro García?
Aye.
Aye, two. I misvoted. Number 30, discussion and action on a proposed conditional use permit for a body shop on Lot 1, Block 3, Mary Lou Park at 700 Horizon Boulevard. Do I have a motion? Any motion?
Presentation?
Motion to approve, as per staff recommendation.
Sec-
For discussion.
For discussion, yes. Second.
Okay.
petitioner is asking for a conditional use permit for a body shop to allow them to establish a body shop. Right now, they have this little shop where they work, but they don't do any body painting. They want to be able to paint their cars there. They're only doing paintless hail damage repair.
PDRs.
Yes, sir. But they're asking for the conditional use permit to allow them to paint in the shop. And the planning and zoning department recommended approval.
Are they, I just have a question, do they have a spray booth?
They have let me show you how it looks from the front. This is how it looks. It's totally enclosed except for the front.
Ventilation though?
Yes, because I have a body shop. I have a spray booth. So you have to have filters and exhaust in it. So my question is, are you guys going to put one in there? Because I don't like the thought of you just closing the doors and then painting. Wait.
We need.
Are they signed up? Are they signed up to?
No, but.
They're the applicants.
The what?
You signed up to.
Oh, okay.
Hello, my name is Carlos Lazo. To address that concern, the reason we're here today is because we were granted a conditional or a permit about a year ago as a body shop. We since then have done PDR because that's been, that was the reason initially where we're positioning. We do want to invest in a paint booth, which we luckily didn't because as you know, they're 30,000, very large investment, absolutely. So what happened is that we came to find right before, we're talking a week before investing $30,000, we find out apparently we're not zoned for this. So then, Mr. Leone, it turned into, we're back and forth, we can't. So we still do have a body shop. We go by all the code. We have other businesses in the area as well, so we follow all compliance. We know exactly, everything as far as the paint booth is concerned. We do have to go through planning and zoning again. We got to get, cement. It's a large investment, but we do want to make sure that we don't do that, and then we get, we get a notice.
Denial. Mr. Perez?
That building towards the left, behind the actual building, where the yellow line is.
Number.
This one right here? Right here. That is also business?
The lumber,
yes, that's also lumber.
So then, and again, I don't know anything about body shops, but do you not have to have some kind of, I guess it would be the paint booth, anything else that will prevent overspray clearing?
According to the paint booth, this would do everything. It's enclosed, it's fully enclosed. It has a filtration system that's going to filter everything. So anything coming out would be purely, it meets all compliance.
It's just there. There's the filters have glue. And what it is, it's suction. It sucks all the air in there. Right. And then what it does, it sticks to it. So periodically you change it, and then that's how it is. Because if you go outside, you won't get any spray paint. That's why I was asking.
And I just want to add, when you do the motion, make sure that you add the motion with the recommendations of the planning and zoning. But it has to be part of your motion. If not, we can't enforce.
All right, so then I'll go ahead and amend my motion at this time to approve, as per staff recommendation, with the considerations provided by, recommendations provided by planning and zoning.
I'm sorry, but just on because that's something I did want to bring up at the last planning and zoning. I read the section 46-414, and the recommendation is to put a solid rock wall to enclose the whole property. It shows a fence. We do have a fence, or I'm not sure. That was my understanding the last meeting, but we have the fence enclosing the full property. So.
That is not correct. The only requirement for their business to be able to operate is to establish a solid fence along the residential zone, which would be the back of the property. That's the only residential zone.
But as far as for beautification, since we have a new avenue there, it would be nice to have.
And we're at as a matter of fact, we're investing, we're already in over $50,000 and we plan on investing more. So we plan on improving the area. We also, we employ families from the area, so, we are about improving Socorro.
Okay. So a motion was made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Do we have speakers?
Do we have speaker?
I understand that you have a protocol in this city of Socorro, which you have distributed powers to different entities to ensure the safety of us. If you'll notice, across the street, you have a bakery. They're gonna do bread. They do bread there. What guarantees you fumes and all of that will not carry over, bedded into that bread? That bakery contains their doors open most of the time because of the heat and everything. You've got to understand that whatever you do for one, you got to look at all of us. What effect will it have on us? I'm not trying to be bossy. I'm not trying to be critical. But the thing is, it's obvious. Yes, we need growth. We need more money, good businesses and everything. But the effects on everybody else. Business and paint, you're talking about fumes. There's a bakery right across the street. I buy my burritos there, and I buy my bread there. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna put my 2 cents in there. Since 2003, the auto industry has started to use water-based paint, okay? You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about when I told you about the PDR, that's what you were doing. And I know because I'm an owner of a body shop. So understand, what the paint industry has changed. So we're no longer in the times of the old ages of lacquer thinners and stuff like that. Better systems, better quality of paint. So it's water-based paint. No fumes whatsoever. The only lack on it that I see with the water is that if it gets cold, you know what happens to it? It freezes. You gotta go buy new paint. But other than that, it's as fume goes, that's why we're gonna force you guys to buy the spray paint at the spray booth so that you guys can eliminate any overspray to the vicinity, so it's one of those things.
Would it be appropriate for me to ask Mr. Luis for a question as a commission?
Yes, if you guys want to suspend. Are you signed up, Mr. Hernandez?
For this?
For this?
No, but I want to address him as a commission.
Could we suspend the rules?
Motion to suspend the rules to address
To
this
ask?
issue?
Okay. Second. Okay, motion is made.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, and the reason why I'm asking is because you are on the planning and zoning commission. And you have defended other projects or other proposals. Why would you defend or would you not defend this?
Well, the thing was that the only concern that when they showed us this project, they had cars parked in front of the property, blocking the view in order for you to turn to your right on Horizon. Now, we asked the gentleman here, are those cars that you're working on or the customer's car that you're gonna be in and out? They're like, no, those are the cars we're working on. So we're like, all right, you will need to park those cars behind. And then his thing was like, well, that's where we're gonna put the paint booth. So I'm like, if you're blocking the view, then that's gonna be a hazard. And then this gentleman said, well, the bakery across, there's always full of cars. So I'm like, you're only there for 15, 20 minutes buying bread. They're not gonna be there all day waiting for a piece of bread. So the thing is that we told him, if you're gonna park the cars on the back, then if you could please cover your fence so they won't be able to see those cars in the back. We did tell him about the solid wall. He said, we invested all this money. So we went down into, just cover up your fence with the mantle. Just the back part of it. The front of it, please do not park the cars. You're blocking the view. That was the only recommendation we did. Now, the paint booth, I know, they have filters, they have everything. I'm not aware if there was other people that live in the back or around there. I don't know if they're gonna be annoyed with the smell or anything. But the thing was, that was the only recommendation was park the cars in the back. If they're gonna be in the back, they have to be enclosed.
All right, and then I guess just two more questions.
Okay, followed by Ms. Reyes.
So then, the consensus was obviously the majority voted to approve or to approve for it to be, not denied, right?
No, we said approve, but with the restrictions.
Okay, the restrictions of the parking.
The parking in the back, and like, if he was gonna park those customer cars on the back, they're gonna stay overnight for a couple of days, then we just needed to cover those out. So then the residents on the side of the, back of the bakery, there's residents, so they wouldn't be bothered by that. Like, we wanted a rock wall, solid rock wall. They said, you know, we're opening up a shop, we don't have that much money, we're gonna invest in a paint booth. So we gave them a cheaper option.
Okay, so then at this point, and I apologize, I don't mean to monopolize, we do have the different conditions that were recommended by the commission, so it should, I mean, it satisfies what you all as a commission are requesting.
Y'all voted yes with those restrictions.
Thank you.
Ms. Reyes? Ms. Reyes?
Okay, can you show us the back of that property, please?
Yeah, I'm on Google right now. I think there's a hole in the back for the water. I know because before that I was looking to purchase that land there.
What's the capacity on the number of vehicles that you can have there at a time? What is the capacity of the number of vehicles that you can have there at a time?
We usually don't do more than about 6, 7. We usually have appointments for PR or something different.
On a C2 zoning classification, they are only allowed to have 5 vehicles at a time.
The restriction is 5 vehicles? The restriction,
The restriction, according to the Muni Code, is 5 vehicles at a time when they're working on vehicles. But he's saying that they have.
working, okay, this is working on vehicles, not necessarily those that are parked. Is that correct? Or is that the total amount that you can have in the business at the?
No, the Muni Code doesn't say about the parking. The parking is separate from the vehicles that they're working on.
Okay.
The vehicles that they're working on should only be 5.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Villalobos, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, on the restriction that he recommended as far as the parking, it's just, you know, and you have a business owner know that we pay for real estate, we pay for the frontage, and what they were recommending to close off, I understand it, but it goes against the view of traffic. You see, when you go there, you stop, you have pictures, at the stop sign, the state places an easement that's gonna allow you, our property, we keep everything within our property line to ensure that when we're signing, we did move those and move to the back just to satisfy, you know, that need, but, for us to enclose the whole front, would take all our frontage, as far as the commercial property, that takes a lot of our freeway.
Ms. Villalobos first.
And that was my question. Why are we imposing the frontage when it has already been zoned before? There was no problem now. Then why is there a problem now? Was there something incorrect that the city,
Planning and zoning.
not planning and zoning, but
The ordinance?
TechStop did incorrectly to cause them to put those vehicles in the back? They're in the property line. The fence is on their property line.
Exactly, and that's why the state puts that easement, is they do allow for a vehicle, when you hit a stop sign, that you stop there, and you still need to, you know, they still give you 10 or 12 feet, where you can pull out, and you guys have to go away, but that easement is there from the state for that reason. You're not allowed to plant anything, you're not allowed to put signage and any of the rocks, we're on cement for that reason. That is a protector.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Are we should we enforce that? I mean, do we have the right to enforce that, or is that a different issue?
I feel that's an opinion because, as you said before, there have been other businesses, all of them mechanical, they leave them as the phones.
Yes.
You know, they're junk.
And I know because before then, there was another business there, and and they filled all that.
And we can only enforce what our ordinance states. If our ordinance doesn't state that, we can't enforce it.
Exactly.
The only thing that the Planning and Zoning Department recommended is for them to stay away from the clear side triangle, which is 30 feet on either way. As long as they're clear on the 30 feet.
30, but it's not on their property, it's on the tax dot's property, correct?
No, they're inside their property. All the cars are inside the fence.
Right.
Everything
No,
is
the
inside.
30 feet. Where does the 30 feet start? Let's just say that.
The clear side triangle would be approximately
I see.
this area here has
Okay.
to be clear. Nothing can be there over 3 feet high. That's the only thing that we recommended, or the Planning and Zoning Department recommended. And they were told to remove the cars that were here in the clear side triangle. 30 feet would be approximately right here. So as long as this area is clear, they're in compliance.
Okay.
Could you live with that?
Yeah, with that, I mean, that's reasonable because it's maybe a car or two, so that's very reasonable. But when it's the whole frontage, now, trying to move where the ponding area is at, I mean, now we basically pay for real estate that we can never really utilize, even as parking, because a car parked there.
You guys can remember that?
My question is, the reason, the recommendation of the 30 feet is for safety reasons?
Yes.
And how did you guys come about that? How did that conclusion come about?
It's in the unit code that no solid structure should be blocking the clear side triangle, and that applies to all the zoning districts. If there's a street, if the property is located in a corner, and there's roads, like in this case, this would be the clear side triangle. And it says clearly that nothing solid over 3 feet high is allowed to allow visibility of traffic.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just want everybody to understand why we came to that conclusion. Most of us don't know why, and it's just for educational purposes.
I don't have an answer for that. That's just, it was an ordinance that was established in 2002.
Okay. I'm sorry? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're not gonna read it.
Oh, yeah.
It's for them, not for me. Yeah.
So, Mr. Perez?
So then, the fence as it is, it's a chain link fence.
Yes.
Is that considered a solid fence structure? I mean, the recommendation here is a solid fence shall be installed along the residential zone. Does that qualify?
That's not a solid fence structure because you could see through. As long as you can see through, it's not a solid structure.
So where would that apply? And again, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that.
As long as they don't hang any signs around the fence, like if they put any signs, they're gonna block the view.
But
So
it's against the residential zone,
Yeah, that's what I would want to see where that solid fence would go.
which would be
Oh,
in
no,
the back.
right there.
Right there?
This is the only residential area on the back. This property next door is industrial. The property across the street is commercial. The property next door is commercial. So the only residential zone is this one right here. So the solid fence would only apply to this area right here. It could be either a fence, a chain link fence with slats in the middle. That would be something solid. That should be enough. Or a wood panel fence or something, as long as they're totally separate from the residential zone.
Okay.
That was the recommendation. And they already have the ponding area in the back. That was another thing that was recommended. And they already have it in the back.
Good, thank you.
So you can make the motion, Mr. Pettis?
On this, on the zoning and planning also, what happened on this, I wish they could tell you the whole story. We saw the cars parked in the front that they were being worked on. Someone that had fenders, someone was a door missing, and there was pieces missing, right? So then we asked, if this is a commercial, where you're gonna paint cars, you have all these cars that you're working on the front, where are the customers are gonna park? That was our question. Now, he said, then we can put those cars in the back. That's where all came up, because they do need parking. They're taking up the parking spaces for the customers in the front by parking cars that they're working on. So everything just boiled down to, where are you gonna put the cars that you're working on? They sit on the back. So all we said, all right, we're not gonna make you put a solid wall, just cover, not all the way to the front, wherever you're gonna have the customer cars, and then the back. That was it. We're saying like, all right, you're not gonna invest all this kind of money, just where you're gonna have the customers' cars in the back, just, so the other people won't be able to see them. But in the front, of course, that was our main thing. If you already have cars there, where are the customers gonna park when they go there to get an estimate? You should know that.
And like, we own several of this, several of this, so we deal with high volume issues. It'd be hard to explain how we do our business model is that very different. We obviously would never turn away a customer, our ease of a customer coming. I mean, there's so many dynamics with that, it'd be hard to explain our reasoning exactly how we run our business, but at the end of the day, we're running in compliance, according to all of the sections, we're meeting everything, and we're trying to exceed, like we said, to reach, to get this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, anybody else?
I think my motion is.
Your motion was to?
Is sufficient.
To approve?
To approve with the recommendations made by planning and zoning commission.
Okay.
Do
So
we
it's
have a
in-
second?
I had a second, I second.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Discussion and action on the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro Master Plan and rezoning of Lot 5, Block 9, Lynn Park subdivision at 10717 Regina.
Motion to deny.
Second.
We have a motion. Any speakers?
We have a second. Do you want discussion or? No discussion?
To deny.
To deny. To deny?
I just want to clear something with you all, and I want to show you something. I'm very concerned, and like I said at the beginning of the council meeting, is that I'm very concerned.
No,
The persist.
No. Give it back.
We are not allowed to collect?
No.
No, it's because it has to be part of the record.
Give it to the-
Mr. Martinez.
It's gotta be part of the record, correct?
It's part of the record, yes,
There's the
sir.
minutes from the planning and zoning?
Yes, they're the minutes from the planning and zoning, which is part of records.
That's public record.
And that's my written request.
Let me see,
It's already-
Mr. Martinez.
There's no prohibition, you don't have to accept it, but if they have materials they want to provide to council, you have the ability to say.
Okay.
And you got
Please,
that?
yes, this
from
is
the
part of
record?
mine, yeah.
Or-
When I'm, okay.
Thank
The
you, Danny.
persistence of the ongoing issues from the Planning and Zoning Department is one of the things that's got me here today. The department, which is that the department staff is not providing to the city council the correct information. And if you look in your packet, you have the letter of recommendation from Joe Terrazas, administrative assistants, and he says, staff recommendation, the Planning and Zoning Command recommends denial for R3, but considers R2 as an alternative zoning to allow the petitioner to fully comply with the requirements of the apartment. And if you look
Ms.
at the
Friday,
minutes.
your time is up.
No,
Wait, but
no.
could we give her 2 minutes?
Yeah,
guys?
we
Because-
interrupted her.
Because we did interrupt her.
Yes.
So, Mr. Pettis,
Motion to suspend.
give her an
Second.
additional 2 minutes.
Victor Pérez, Iván Colom Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes, and Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
You have 2 more minutes.
Okay, and if you look at the minutes that I provided you, look what the reading says on that one. It says that a motion was made by so-and-so to deny the R2 zoning, second by Daniel Hernandez, period. But yet you're being told here that it with a but for options 2. I'm concerned based on the fact that you are supposed to be given the information and recommendation of the commission you appoint. You appoint members of this commission to oversee what you all can't see and to investigate what you all don't have time to investigate. So I just want to share with you this information, and I just want to tell you that another thing that happened when I went to this public meeting was I provided information to them, and I believe that the planning and zoning in your records, they don't have what was provided to them. What was given to them at that time of the meeting was a copy of a notarized letter from the people of that neighborhood saying they didn't want it, okay? Which is here, and it should be in the files. The other thing that was given to them was that since that house was built in 2003, it was a house, it was built wrongly, it's wrong, and where the place where it's at, it's dangerous for children because of the way the traffic goes in there. That was the main concern back in 2003, that it was denied. And every year that somebody else buys it, they come back here. All I'm asking, let's follow the rules, protocol, the process. And at this time, I'm just showing you that there's something wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I thank you for accepting the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission, that they did a great job, even though they did not receive the full documentations as stated, because I received a letter that says, written comments
Thank
must
you.
be...
Your 2 minutes are
Okay.
up. Thank you. Ms. Reyes?
Mr. Martinez.
After Mr. Perez. Mr. Perez goes after you, Ms. Reyes, sorry.
Okay, Mr. Martinez, being that this was worded wrong, for we're denying an R3, and actually that we're asking for an R2, can we go ahead and, because if you do look at the minutes, it does state to deny R3 zoning, yet when we have the paperwork, but consider an R2? Is that correct? Can we do that without any kind of change?
Just delete it. Delete it.
But I was gonna talk about that. This is just what I can see here. We are acting consistently with what the recommendation of the commission was, because they're asking that we deny it as an R3. But as now, and this is perfectly within their purview as staff, as an alternate consideration, we could, maybe at a later date, consider it as an R2, or the commission could take it up for the consideration as an R2. But, so that's, I think we're just denying it as an R3 altogether. It remains an R1. Yeah.
So this is I'm sorry.
The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends denial of R3. So I think it's pretty straightforward.
I was just wondering, so it's denied here, but we need to maybe consider an R2? And that's just put in there, or is that given an alternative to the?
Yeah, but.
Ms. Reyes? Ms. Reyes?
But,
I have a question, I'm sorry.
Ms. Re-
right, no,
Ms. Reyes was
I'm just wondering how.
Okay, now, if we, Mr. Martinez, can we go ahead and make, the motion or amend the motion to deny R3 and also the R2?
It's not.
The R2, which is what they
It's
can
not even of them.
reconsider? Okay. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends denial of an R3, but consider an R2. We don't want an R2, we want an R1 to stay all residential.
That's just a straight denial. The application is for
No, and that's just, the
Okay,
other
we're
stuff
gonna
is
deny
just,
the R3, and we're not even gonna
Consider,
but to
yes.
consider the R2.
no, you're not. It's just a denial, you kill it, and that's it.
Okay. I just wanted
So,
clarification.
yes, so in layman terms is, if you deny, you're denying everything, even the
Okay.
consideration of considering an R2.
The consideration of the consideration?
Yes,
Okay.
consideration of the consideration.
Okay.
So, Ms. Villalobos?
Just a quick question, this item 31, should it not, it just says rezoned on the agenda. Should it had said rezoned from an R1 to an R3? Or it just says rezone? I know the application has it, but it doesn't have it on the agenda. And that could be misleading to the public.
Would have been better.
Yeah.
I think it's sufficient, it would have been better.
It's sufficient?
But we can still,
I'd be more concerned if you're gonna approve it. If you're gonna approve it, and say, you need to publish the current zoning and classification and the proposed zoning classification.
yes,
But if it's denial, it's that one.
yes. So basically, right now, what's on the floor is a denial. So if you guys want to take up the vote,
I beg to differ. We need to be more transparent. And it needs to have the right classification on there that they're trying to change it to. If I would have read it as a constituent,
Finish.
no,
Yeah.
finish.
no, if I would have read it as a
Ms. Reyes.
constituent, I would have been, what rezoning are they talking about?
Okay, Ms. Reyes?
And it might have made a difference whether I was here or not.
Okay.
Okay?
The fact that we're going to deny the R3, everything else is irrelevant. Is that correct?
Wouldn't say everything else is irrelevant.
The R2 consideration. Okay, I mean, if we're gonna deny the R3, but they can consider an R2, we're just gonna do away with the whole thing. This thing never happened. We're leaving it as an R1.
If you wish to leave it as an R1, the correct action would be to deny the application.
Okay, just to deny the application.
You're making the motion?
We already have a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
We already had a motion.
What
You
was the
wanna amend
motion?
your motion?
To deny the application.
Okay, second.
Okay,
Is there a second already?
Yeah, you had already seconded.
Third.
there we go. First and second.
I also need a bathroom break.
Lorenza Fraire.
I just want to be clear as to what District 1 was concerned about, the option, because it is part of your packet, an R3 and the option of an R2. So with the denial, that's denying both option 2 and option 3?
Everything.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
Iván Colón Villalobos.
Yes.
María Reyes.
Yes.
And Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
At this time, council, we would like to have a recess.
Motion to recess.
Second.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
Iván Colón
Yes.
Villalobos. María Reyes. And Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
We're on a recess.
For how long? 5 minutes?
10, 5, 10.